Chapter 1021, Evoking Heaven Art. Chapter 1021, Evoking Heaven Art. Proofreader, Papatonks. Yen Imo, you were right, Ouyang Chongqing really can fight Junior Brother. Maybe not to the level of Zhuo Fan's fight with Junior Brother, but it should come close with how they are. Outside the arena, Wu Qingqiu commented on the fight, telling Yen Imo, you've done well. Yen Imo dismissed his praise, it's nothing. I went first with Ouyang Chongqing, to test his strength. I lasted 20 rounds with him, while only holding for 18 with Yi Lin. The best disciple in Northern Lands is a show-off, but does live up to his name at least. I just hope the fight could stir Chu Qingqing's mind, the least we can do for Zhuo Fan's spirit. Yeah, this fight is our hope to bring Zhuo Fan's spirit peace. If even this won't work, then nothing will. Wu Qingqiu sighed, glancing at Chu Qingqing and seeing her peaceful face leaning on Zhuo Fan's shoulder. Her tranquility caught him off guard, especially since there was a huge fight going on and she had no sign of being afraid. He signaled Yen Imo and said, Hey, Yen Imo, who is that guy? Junior sister Qingqing has been at peace ever since they met. It's baffling. Yen Imo frowned and shook his head, I have no idea. He's wearing a mask so I can't tell. Though I don't think it would make a difference even if he hadn't. From Ouyang Chongqing's introduction, he's a merchant from Northern Lands. We've hardly ever left Western Lands so we'd definitely not recognize him. Why do I get a familiar feeling about him then? Wu Qingqiu's senses threw him into a state of confusion, but he put it all aside and focused on the fight. Ouyang Chongqing looked around after his first loss and saw Murong Xue's eager eyes. His delusion made him believe she was rooting for him with that hopeful gaze. So he gnashed his teeth and weaved signs. With every sign, thunder boomed and rumbled as a sudden heavy air overtook the area. Soon, the people found it hard to even breathe. As the warmth was sapped away, ice began to form and spread. The oldies cried out at his actions, evoking heaven art. Does he plan to finish it by showing his cards so soon? Evoking heaven art? Exalted He Ran started as well, see Bright Sect's main earth-ranked martial art, that evoking heaven art? The skill is said to have come from understanding the heaven-sealing sword. One old man nodded gravely, yeah, the heaven-sealing sword contains the power of seals. By learning its art one gains knowledge about the sealing way and breaking way. The evoking heaven art came from the heaven-sealing sword's breaking way. Exalted He Ran, cultivators need to reach Genesis stage to draw upon the world's power and grow their sword's power to unseen levels. But the evoking heaven art breaks the chains of the world and uses its power before one reaches Genesis stage while unleashing the same type of might as a Genesis stage expert. It's an outrageous art, and the more worldly power is drawn, the bigger the impact. In other words, Ouyang Chongqing has become, for a brief moment, a Genesis stage expert. Exalted He Ran gasped as he looked intently at the fight, since they're even, won't that mean Ouyang Chongqing has gained the upper hand with this boost in cultivation stage? Soul Harmony cultivators are seen as weak to any Genesis stage expert. Yi Lin is no normal Soul Harmony expert, but neither is Ouyang Chongqing in his now temporary Genesis stage. He is an inheritor of the heaven-sealing sword art. Yi Lin's hopes are slim at best. The elder shook his head with a sigh, Exalted He Ran has to look closer. The evoking heaven art is no secret art, but it has its fair share of dangers. One needs to exercise restraint when it comes to worldly power. The old man sighed, I can only hope that his opponent will fall quickly so he can reign in the worldly power before it causes harm. Exalted He Ran smirked, that's going to be hard. Yi Lin is quite unyielding. When he fought the best disciple in Western Lands, he almost bet his life. He's only standing there because I stepped in. Ugh! They shared bitter smiles and shook their heads. Why did it have to be these two pig-headed fools that have to fight? The fight was worrying the elders, but the audience was oblivious to the danger, exploding the minute Ouyang Chongqing unleashed his great move. Ouyang Chongqing saw the cheers aimed at him and the girl of his dreams watching him, and smiled. His signs formed faster. The more signs he formed, the harder the pressure of the world bore down, with a bone-chilling coldness spreading. Icy sword waves formed in the sky as they flew around, spreading shock and fear. Yilin no longer had a smug look, but became serious, his fists clenching. Rumble. With Ouyang Changqing's final sign, lightning split the skies, unleashing a deafening thunder. One black cloud exploded into myriads of icy swords, gathering around Ouyang Changqing and numbering in the tens of thousands. Bang! Some scraped the barrier of the stage and punched holes in it like it wasn't even there. The safeguard was now gone. The audience was too incensed to care, shouting harder than ever and chanting his name. With the fall of the barrier, everyone, even the crowd, was now part of the fight. And being part of such a fight only meant one thing for them: death. While they were blissfully oblivious to the incoming doom, the oldies picked up on the crisis. Blast it. Now if anything happens, it will only become worse. Humph, that kid just had to pick Beneath Heaven Island's stage for his fight. Doesn't he know this stage is meant for average disciple spars? Its barrier isn't strong either. It's because most people are on Beneath Heaven Island. Ouyang Lingtian's son is like the rumors paint him, vain. Exalted He Ran smiled. Well, aren't you going to stop him? The oldies paused. Exalted He Ran, why don't you try? Tch, hell no. Exalted He Ran rolled his eyes. It's your home, so how could I step in? Until my disciples are in peril, I won't budge an inch. Any sooner and it will be taken as Western Land's defeat. While a mere children's quarrel, we all have our dignity, all right? The oldies shook their heads. We can't step in either. Changqing is pig-headed but has great talent. He's going to take his father's place and wield heaven's sealing sword, that is certain. And you want us to barge in into his most prideful moment and his fun? Tch, a bunch of bootlickers. It goes to show how it got to his head and beyond. You always indulged him. Exalted He Ran clicked his tongue and he watched. The oldies had no comeback, silently accepting his jab. None would step in until it was too late. Like whether the kid was suicidal or not had nothing to do with them. Below, sword energies roamed around with the world's energy filling the air at Ouyang Changqing's whim. He grew excited because none had brought him this far, making him feel the amazing power for the first time. Having the world in the palm of his hand was intoxicating. Ouyang Changqing shouted and pointed at the skies. The thousands of sword energies combined and formed into a sword image with a cold edge 300 meters tall. Its unstoppable aura shimmering the air around it. Wu Qingqiu cried out, "This is the power of the world Ouyang Changqing is able to use, but why? Curses, how is that little junior brother able to take such a boosted move? This is not as simple as a mere boost, but a gap in stages. Hardly anything can bridge the gap between Soul Harmony stage and Genesis stage." Yan Nimo gnashed his teeth. The two were equal, but now, with this incredible secret skill, Yilin will have a hard time overcoming it, even with all he has. Wu Qingqiu sighed, glancing at Chu Qingcheng. I hoped to give her an even fight, but Ouyang Changqing went all out too quickly, becoming overwhelming in power. It took all the thrill out of it. The others sighed a nod. Only Yilin looked at Zhuo Fan below, his eyes thirsting for battle. After turning to his opponent, golden flames burst from his eyes, as if to prove his resolve. Elder brother, watch closely. I have lost to you before, but after these years, I'm just as good as you. Chapter 1022, Shocking Move. Chapter 1022, Shocking Move. Proofreader, Papatonks. Ha ha ha, can you feel the extent of my power? Give up while you still can. We're allies and would hate to leave you hurting and break our land's relations. Have some common sense and I will make sure to follow in my footsteps of grandeur. With the heaven's sword in my hands, the world's my oyster. Ouyang Changqing raised his hand and lifted the terrible and sharp illusory sword, feeding his ego as he spoke with conceit. As for the audience, they only grew more excited with his confidence. Only Murong Shui gave Shengwan Qingyan a bitter look. He has the power, but nothing beats his narcissism. The more I think about it, the more I fear for the future of the northern lands with him in the lead. Yi Lin gave him a cold look, not at all impressed by the humongous flashy sword above his head. He actually had the nerve to taunt, "Don't get ahead of yourself. It's too soon to tell, don't you think, Brother Ouyang? You really think you have it in you to take on this sword? I'm going to crush it." With golden flames shining in his eyes, Yi Lin shouted, his body exploding with power, "This is a secret art I could only use once in the soul harmony stage. I planned on using it on elder brother when we sparred again, but since we met first, I'll let you have a taste." Decimating Inferno, Fire Dragon form. Yi Lin roared at the heavens, followed by draconic howls, shaking the air with every rumble. Scorching and golden lights shot from his body like a volcanic eruption, illuminating the whole sky. A dreaded heatwave spread, enveloping half the world in a red hue and the audience in a hot spell. As for Yi Lin, under the shocked eyes of the crowd, began to change. Golden scales formed on his body and his teeth turned into sharp fangs. He was now like a wild beast, and from the shape of his head, it was that of a dragon. Everyone gasped at the sudden transformation. Is his soul the greatest heaven dragon soul? How else could he take this form in soul harmony stage? His power and yuan qi amount had to be multiplied. There are now some good chance he might actually take on the sword. Ouyang Chongqing huffed, "So what if you have the heaven dragon soul? My sword is from the heaven sealing sword art. Even if you harmonized with the heaven dragon's soul, it won't do a damn thing." "Humph, do you really think this is your average soul harmony? Ignorant whelp, just watch. I told you, this is fire dragon form, not your average fake draconic soul harmony." Yi Lin smirked and shouted again. Boom! Akin to a detonation, the violent golden flames shot from his body in every direction. The great power made the audience squint, feeling on their skin the searing heat he released. Ouyang Chongqing gasped, his mind going a mile a minute as he reproached. "Brothers, this is but a fight for the best in the alliance, not to the death. Could you not detonate, please?" The oldies were just as stunned, gaping at the display. Not even Exalted He Ran acted with more composure. Why's Yi Lin so panicked to detonate? He's not even cornered yet. Standing there for any longer would let the inferno reach the crowd and would be sure to leave countless casualties. The elders were ready to stop this from happening. Ouyang Chongqing grew serious as well, about to slash with his sword and stop the incoming golden flames. And yet, the spreading golden inferno paused and pulled back in on the stage, forming a huge fire tornado, punching a hole in the skies. When the tornado settled, a deafening draconic cry racked the audience's ears. The elders, Ouyang Chongqing, even Exalted He Ren watched with dumb look at the incredulous scene unfolding. Yi Lin had been hiding such a move even in the years spent inside Double Dragon Manor. Yi Lin was nowhere to be seen on stage, replaced with a 300-meter-tall golden and flaming dragon soaring high above. Where it passed, the air shimmered, as if the skies feared the divine dragon's roars. Only a divine beast could have the might to challenge heavens, never content with just holding the world's power. Yi Lin was now a fire dragon, his power being on the level of heaven itself. Why then should he care if the opponent used worldly power? Ouyang Chongqing's brow shook, still holding the sword, but his gaze was lost. "Screw you. That's no soul harmony dragon, but the real thing. Talk, where the hell did Western lands get such a monster, you damn abomination?" Wu Qingqiu and the rest from Western lands were floored. They knew Yi Lin was badass, but only now knew he held a skill that could rival heavens. Ouyang Chongqing had now met his match as a fight like no other was about to unfold. The fight sure was intense, on the level of Zhuofan and Yi Lin's back in Western lands. Wu Qingqiu and Yan Imo shared a smile, then looked at Chu Qingcheng. Shengwan Qingyan was dazzled, looking astonished. "Sister Shui, it's totally worth it. Yeah, it's beyond my imagination the best disciple in Western lands to be of such amazing talent to fight the son of Ouyang Lingtian. He is on the level of the best 4 princes of the Bailey clan. As for the strongest Bailey Jingtian," Murong Shui sighed, "I don't know for sure since we never fought, but these two give us hope." Bam! Yilin's huge bulk landed on stage, the large vertical eyes staring at Ouyang Chongqing, while sometimes glancing at Zhuo Fan. "See that, bro? This is my power, just like yours." His mood got killed the minute he saw Zhuo Fan never even looking at him. Zhuo Fan's eyes were only on Chu Qingqing's peaceful features as he listened to Shui Ruohua tell him of Chu Qingqing's troubles. Shaking his huge dragon head, Yilin sighed with disappointment, focusing on his adversary instead. He opened his maw to reveal the human-sized fangs as he laughed. "Boy, you dare talk big with me? You're only asking me to tear into you." Bam! The dragon claw slammed on stage, crumbling it to pieces. The powerful shockwave howling as it spread to the audience and burning his majestic visage in their trembling hearts. It was like they were seeing a real dragon in all its glory, robbing them of their breaths. All the resounding support Ouyang Chongqing had been getting from his fellow disciples was now quashed under the oppressive power of the dragon before them. They couldn't muster the slightest peep, feeling utterly inferior. Yilin was a true dragon, a king in his own right before the masses. For the first time ever, the stage had sunk in complete silence. No one held more authority than the fire dragon's royal aura. Ouyang Chongqing started to sweat as he watched the huge dragon, but his heart burned with anger. He didn't know what abomination Yilin was, with how the average soul harmony stage cultivator merely took on the appearance of the soul beast, bumping up their power a bit. But this guy in front of him became a true dragon. No matter how he looked at it, that was not a human standing before him, but a dragon made of fire. He didn't care how or why it happened, only feeling that his grand performance had been squashed. All eyes were now on Yilin's magnificent and royal form as he became a prop. It was a blow his ego was incapable of taking. He had fought so many times, but when did he ever become the extra? This time there were so many people watching, all thanks to his efforts too, and to show off in front of the girl of his dreams. But all that popularity had gone away in a flash. Would a man of his endless pride allow for another to steal his limelight? He had to win this at all costs, or it would haunt him for the rest of his days. Ouyang Chongqing gnashed his teeth and resolve glowed in his eyes. The sword above him grew more savage. "I don't care if you're a fake or not, I'll slaughter you where you stand." Ouyang Chongqing waved and brought down the great sword on Yilin's huge dragon bulk. Chapter 1023, Berserk. Chapter 1023, Berserk. Proofreader, Papatonks. Who? The large sword carried the power of the world as it came down on the dragon head. Its chilling aura swept the stage, cooling the heart coming from Yilin. The dragon's surging fires dimmed and flickered as well. Yilin's brow shook, still having the calm of mind to know that the heaven-sealing sword art held the power to contest the dragons. So he willed the flames to reach 10 meters once more as he used his big claws to grasp the large sword. Bam! The claws screeched as they made contact, with hot and cold fighting for supremacy. Ouyang Chongqing strained with a red face to bring that large sword down while Yilin forced himself with a soaked brow to keep the flames burning against the icy blade, even as they slowly got put out. They both used all they had, but they were now at a standstill. The prolonged tension brought unease to the crowd, looking on nervously and eager to know the final winner, the best disciple in the alliance. "You think you can best me with just your power? In your dreams." Evoking heaven art. Pushing hard for 15 minutes, yet the claws held the sword at bay still. Ouyang Chongqing had lost his patience. Yilin's true dragon form was too strong, able to counter the power of the world with only his strength. Thinking about it, he realized the yuan qi reserves Yilin had were gigantic as well. Thus letting it drag out would be to his detriment. He might have borrowed the world to bump his power, the yuan qi he used to gain control over it was too taxing to keep running for long. Speed was of the essence. Today was also the first time he used evoking heaven art and controlled so much worldly power. And if he tried to take some more? Ouyang Chongqing hesitated, but then he saw Yilin's conviction. He just gnashed his teeth and shouted as he made the signs. Another rumble spread through the skies as sword energy gathered in his hand and flowing into the large sword. The sword's coldness flared with power, pushing back harder against Yilin's draconic body, snapping the stage in half from the force. Ouyang Chongqing grew pleased at the results. Let's see you last now. The oldies of the Sea Bright sect were getting tense by the moment, evoking heaven art again. It should be fine. Let's hope so. They shook their heads in worry. The audience cheered at their senior brother's comeback, though drowned soon after by another draconic roar. As he pushed at the incoming sword, he also lashed out with the searing and flaming tail. Bam! The large sword shook as it dimmed. Ouyang Chongqing shook with it, pushed back a bit. But it was his heart that couldn't take the reality. Yilin smirked and wheezed, while still having the energy to mock, "Brat, let's see how far worldly energy can take you. Humph, isn't it something you drew with your yuan qi? The minute the sword shakes the slightest bit, your yuan qi is affected. How will you draw worldly power in that state? One tiny shift and everything will come down crashing. Your evoking heaven art isn't anything to look at." Yilin flared his fire and pushed at the large sword. Bam! Ouyang Chongqing's face twisted as he paled. "Damn punk, I'll get you for this." With his opponent figuring out his weakness, Ouyang Chongqing ignored everything and made signs again. "I'll show you the true power of the heaven-sealing sword art." Heaven-sealing art. The large sword exploded into many cold blades and shot for Yilin's bulk, invisible and unnoticed. Yilin surged in the sky because of the loss of resistance, but then the sword waves battered his body, snuffing out the flames and even forming ice. Yilin cried out, "What is this thing? I can't move." "Ha ha ha, see that? This is the true power of the heaven-sealing sword art, sealing." Ouyang Chongqing laughed in pride. "Once caught, strength won't matter, for you can't move a muscle. You lost, Western Land's brat." Yilin's face twisted in defiance. The elders above gasped. Evoking heaven art uses the breaking way, while heaven-sealing art the sealing way. Who told him to use both of them at the same time? He's only making it worse. What's the problem? Exalted He Ran felt bad for seeing his disciple lose, but then he heard them and asked, "You're saying this is more dangerous than evoking heaven art?" Chapter 1024, Ouyang Lingtian. Chapter 1024, Ouyang Lingtian. Proofreader, Papatonks. Whoosh! Sword energies flew around the sky, slamming into the ice dragon and adding to the seal. The ice dragon howled at the sky with such power it crushed the stage, then blew his breath on the audience, one of ice and cold. The chilling breath swept the unfortunate ones and turned them into statues of ice in mid-panic. So deep was the cold that it froze their very souls. "We're finished. The heaven and earth has gone berserk." One elder held his head and sighed bitterly. Ouyang Chongqing was enraged when Yilin attacked his fans. "Hey, Western Land's punk, have you lost your mind? You're the demented one, Chongqing." The elder shook his head and snapped at him. "Have you any idea what calamity you caused? Evoking heaven art and heaven-sealing art engender each other. Evoking heaven art breaks, opening a channel into the world so you can draw its power. While heaven-sealing art seals this channel and the power. When a cultivator uses the worldly power, it would dissipate afterward and return to its rightful place, back to the world. This is its nature. But you opened a channel into the world, then had it sealed in place. The minute you lost all control over that power, it started spilling into reality without stopping, thanks to locking the channel while also running amok with no one to direct it. And this is the result." Ouyang Chongqing's eyes went wide, scratching his head classlessly. "Elder, so you're saying the dragon isn't that guy but amassed worldly power? Why is it attacking people then? Isn't it just energy? The world has spiritual energy, so it must have its own will." The elder shook his head. "Once a cultivator draws upon the worldly power, they can control it, but now this power has gone berserk, gathering in one place and also gaining sentience from the will of the world. With heaven and earth going crazy, you have no idea what kind of a disaster it can cause. It's beyond anything humanly possible." Ouyang Chongqing looked at the far ice dragon with a deep frown. "What about the Western Lands punk? You're saying the power focused on him and it's controlling him? What about his mind, has it been swallowed? You have the nerve to ask. The elder's face twitched and shook his head. Have you no clue what you just did? You used heaven's sealing sword art and he's been frickin' sealed. Now the power of the world is going into the dragon without a conscience, the best thing for it. If the mind was still there, some control would have been possible. This time is going to be even harder to deal with than 2,000 years ago. Your father is going to tan your hide. Ouyang Changqing's lip quivered, like he was a naughty child caught red-handed and looking guilty. The roars echoed across the skies as the ice dragon flung its bulk around and spraying ice to freeze everything. The only expressive thing about these lifelike statues were the fearful eyes and the shocked faces. Wu Qingqiu cried out, "Little junior brother, what happened to you? Stop!" Who? The ice dragon blew ice once more. Wu Qingqiu knew he was going to fall under such power and rushed to dodge. His leg ended up being caught in the blast, freezing over. "Sir, what just happened? Go and take Qingqing away." The peaceful storytelling had now come to an abrupt end as a monster rampaged around turning people into popsicles. Shui Ruohua gasped and reached for Chu Qingqing to take her away from this dangerous place. Zhuo Fan regarded the peaceful face of his wife and smiled, "It's fine, there's no need to disturb her." "You haven't finished the story, Miss Shui, please continue." "As if. With so much chaos around the world might be ending, and you're asking me to tell you a bedtime story? Even if I might be suicidal, I will never let any harm come to Qingqing. What kind of a sister you take me for?" While she was insisting on taking Chu Qingqing, one guard grabbed her hand. "Miss, since Sir said you may continue, then it's fine. Please trust him. We're also here and shall keep the danger at bay from reaching Miss." Looking into Zhuo Fan's eyes, then into those eyes filled with complete trust, she turned to watch the berserk ice dragon. Shui Ruohua hesitated, but she had no choice other than nod, even if against it. Zhuo Fan smiled and looked at Qingqing next to him lovingly. Bam! On stage, Exalted He Ran shot a sword energy at the ice dragon and break the ice on it and reach his dear disciple. But the dragon shook and all the ice splashing about was soon absorbed into its body along with the power of the strike. Exalted He Ran gasped in fright, "What in the world is that thing?" "Exalted, please refrain from doing anything. Nothing we do will have any effect." One elder with a white beard came over as he explained hastily, "That is the embodiment of the heaven-sealing sword art. No matter what skill is used, it will only be absorbed by the seal and become its own power. That's why nothing we do to it will help. We can only protect the other disciples and flee from here." Exalted He Ran was astonished. Then he glanced at the panicking disciples fleeing for their lives, still ending up in ice from the dragon's breath, and said, "If you say this thing's unstoppable, how then do we deal with it? We can't let it run amok and freeze the whole sect. Exalted, it can seal everything but the 5 great divine swords." The man cupped his hands and pointed at the ice swords raining down from above. "Even now, please observe, the channel into the world has been opened, turning into an infinite loop. Our only hope is to dodge and wait for Brother Ling Tian to come with the heaven-sealing sword and seal the channel, then cut it to disperse all that power. He will also go easy as to save your disciple as well." Exalted He Ran's brow shook, looking at the ice dragon freezing anything that moved with a sigh. He relinquished a nod. This thing was now part of the world, undying and unstoppable. The more power they used on it, the more it absorbed. The only option right now was to wait for Ouyang Ling Tian to come to the rescue and fix this damn mess his own son made. Ouyang Changqing looked at the ice dragon ruining everything, out of his control, and felt so bad he could cry. "I can't tell if Dad will come to strike me down or the dragon first." Sniff. "Ouyang Changqing, this is all your fault. You did this, you caused this disaster to fall on so many lives." 2 girls flashed out of nowhere. Shengwan Qingyan glared at him and started cursing. Morong Shui was furious as well, full of hatred. Morong Shui's hatred, however, was due to having involved innocents. Shengwan Qingyan's rage was because she worried for Zhuo Fan, so she was taking it out on him. She was running her mouth while looking around for Zhuofan. With everyone in panic, it was hard to look. Ouyang Chongqing lowered his head in guilt under the chastising look of the girl of his dreams. He was even more accepting of his guilt than when faced with his father. There! Shengwan Qingyan spotted Zhuofan, still sitting without a worry and listening to everything. Talk about monstrous, not even having a healthy respect for the worldly abomination running amok just next to him. Maybe it felt the contempt, or maybe all the targets fled and left only Zhuofan's group still untouched, but the ice dragon roared and set its eyes on them. It shot for them, its icy aura freezing the area around it as it passed. Watch out! Shengwan Qingyan cried out in fright, a little too late. The others around her looked down just in time to see another poor soul's being sacrificed to the calamity. Leave this to me. A resounding voice spoke. Hum. The cold humming of a sword was heard as a figure in gray rushed over at full speed. Dad! Ouyang Chongqing cried out, thrilled and scared. While the others looked on in hope. Northern Land's best, Ouyang Lingtian, finally arrived with Heaven's sealing sword to clean up his son's mess. Chapter 1025, Thunderflame Wraithclaw. Chapter 1025, Thunderflame Wraithclaw. Proofreader, Papatonks. Heaven's sealing sword art, heaven-breaking strike. A dignified man with a grey robe fluttering in the wind appeared. He had sharp eyes and sharp features. He wielded an azure longsword, giving a dazzling light. Its sharp edge promised to cut everything in creation, even the world, humming all along. The sharp sword energy rushed out of the tip and went for the ice dragon, moving with incredible speed through the air. The others watched in awe as the best in Northern Lands made his move. As he was in mid-strike, someone shouted at him, "Brother Lingtian, please go easy. The ice dragon has my disciple sealed. Please spare his life. There's actually someone in there. Isn't it like the disaster 2,000 years ago?" Ouyang Lingtian's eyes shook from the news and he halted the attack. He looked back to see Western Land's exalted He Ran speaking up. Ouyang Lingtian went back to the raging ice dragon about to run into Zhuofan. He was hesitating, not knowing where the sealed disciple was under all that ice, and one wrong move would cleave him. By hurting exalted Double Dragon's precious disciple would mean ruining their cooperation. While delaying would also implicate the people it targeted, under the ice's torment from the dragon. The sudden conundrum had the best in Northern Lands stuck. Save one and let many die to keep the land's friends still. Or accept the loss of a single life for the good of many. Ouyang Lingtian found it a very tough choice to make. Which was worth it? The alliance or the lives below? It was a headache even for the most righteous characters. But he had omitted one last choice, inaction, leaving the ice dragon to rampage for Zhuofan's group. Now no one could save them. His attack would be too late for the sword energy to reach them in time. The ice dragon would have crushed them to pieces by the time he struck. To others, it looked like Ouyang Lingtian had made no choice when he actually did. Yi Lin was brought at their invitation by exalted He Ran with the promise of safety. With Western Land's crucial situation, his safety was just as vital. Far more so than a few random lives. The righteous path stated that all lives were equal. But when people were involved, that value tended to change to suit their needs. Ouyang Lingtian held the sword tight and sighed. Down below it was life and death, yet the matters of the world had won over his principles. He wanted to save everyone, but he stayed his hand. Not for the life inside the ice dragon, but the ties among the two lands. No matter how huge the collateral, the essential personnel had to be kept alive, lest it would cause tension between factions. Such was the secular world. The 5 lands' best experts could be all noble as much as they wanted, but it still didn't change the fact they were tied in the vicious interests of the world around them. Shengwan Qingyan had hoped for Ouyang Lingtian's appearance, so that Zhuofan would be saved. But the best in Northern Lands' rescuing strike failed to deliver. It astonished her to no end. "Why aren't you doing anything?" "Yeah, Dad would always help people in need. Why is today any different?" Is he afraid of harming innocents from how far we are? Ouyang Chongqing cried out. Murong Shui's brow shook and sighed. It's not a stray attack he fears, but his already stray heart. The ice dragon roared once more, carrying unstoppable power straight at Zhuo Fan, surrounding them in a harsh cold mist. The slightest touch would mean being frozen on the spot. Now there was no escape. Junior sister Qingcheng, junior sister Shui. Wu Qingqiu cried out, with the others around him nervous for their fate. Shengwan Qingyan cried out in panic, look out Zhuo Dash. There was no stopping the ice dragon's charge. It raised its claw and went for their lives, to crush them to an icy pulp. Shui Ruohua and the other girls stood rooted in place. They glanced at the unfazed Zhuo Fan, still sitting in his spot, with reproachful gazes. I told you we should run, but you just had to play it cool. Now look what happened, there's nowhere to go now. If you find death so nice, why the hell did you have to drag us with you as well? Look at Qingcheng, she's still lost in her own mind. The poor girl is about to fade away all due to some damn stranger. Well, aren't you all pissed your boss is so stubborn he just had to have you all die as well? Shui Ruohua turned to the guards then, only to find them just as cool. Shui Ruohua was stumped. Are they all suicidal? You don't mind dying with such a master? Having been around Zhuo Fan for this long journey, they figured out early on how he operated. From inciting frigid rain sword king, to facing invincible sword, whenever he showed complete calm, then it was proof enough that all would be fine. Zhuo Fan held Chu Qingqing's hand, her head leaning on his shoulder, in utter tranquility, even more so than usual. So why would they rack their nerves? They had complete trust in Zhuo Fan's control, worshipping his flawless skills. It could have come from a horde of dragons for all they cared. So long Zhuo Fan was chill, so were they. Who? The ice winds blew, surrounding the area in its great power. Even the seats chilled over and froze their rears. It was then the two claws were right on top of them. Shui Ruohua's eyes rolled back, about to faint from terror. The onlookers, Wu Qingqiu, Yan Imo, Murong Shui and the others were filled with worry but equally helpless. Ouyang Lingtian sighed, closing his eyes, unable to bear seeing the result of his choice. They might be collateral, but lives nonetheless that he brought doom upon. He felt he had lost all dignity. Exalted He Ran looked at the three girls below with a shake of his head and guilt. To save Yi Lin and the Western Land's future, he had given up on the expendables. It was certain to all here that Zhuo Fan's group was finished, sighing at the loss. But the deadly ice claws halted for no reason just above them. To everyone's shock, they watched as a black claw formed between Zhuo Fan and the ice dragon, blocking the ice claws from coming any closer. What is this? Why isn't he sealed in contact with the ice dragon? One elder shouted in disbelief, the ice dragon seals everything, arts, souls and even yuan qi, in its body. How is it that someone is still unaffected when touching it? Ouyang Lingtian watched the spectacle with equal shock, forgetting to even mind his flying. Heaven's sealing sword art can no longer seal. That's not possible. Shui Ruohua was waiting for her life to end at the ice dragon's claw but found it to be late. She cracked an eyelid open and saw the black claw keeping it back with a dumb look. Wasn't this dragon unstoppable? Exalted He Ran couldn't stop it earlier, so why can this man? Sir, Shui Ruohua turned to Zhuo Fan in shock. Zhuo Fan only had eyes for Chu Qingcheng, who still leaned on his shoulder with a smile. Then he glanced at the halted ice claws with a hard expression. You ruined the mood, bastard. Thunderflame Wraith Claw. His left eye acted up and the black thunderflame exploded. It spread over the black claw and enlarged it many times into a huge thunderflame claw. The crackling fire filled the air with death. It was a power and aura that struck fear to the core of the disciples and the mighty experts above, including Exalted He Ran and Ouyang Lingtian. As for the ice dragon, it actually showed fear under the black thunderflame's power. Its huge icy bulk quaked from it. Chapter 1026, the best. Chapter 1026, the best. Proofreader, Papatonks. Boom! The dreadful black thunder claw squeezed and the ice dragon's claws exploded to pieces. The thunder flame made sure to burn them to nothing before they got back to its body. The ice dragon shook from fear, looking terrified. The guy was simply standing at the side, without a care, till now, and gave off no indication it wielded such godly power, incapable of even being sealed. It flicked its tail and the scared dragon withdrew as he absorbed the cold icy sword waves from the sky and repaired the damage. Its claws were soon good as new. Zhuofan was not about to let it go. Since he had to get involved, he would finish it too. Zhuofan's eyes shone and the huge thunderflame claw shot forth to clutch the ice dragon's head, bursting it with a squeeze. The ice was blown away, even if formed from the worldly power, ended up burned to nothing from the thunderflame. The thunderflame claw grabbed further, at the body, and took seconds to turn the 300-meter large ice dragon to pieces that had no chance of returning, sizzling and gone from this world. The thunder claw grasped one last time and drew a person next to Zhuofan. Because of the seal placed on him, Yilin's mind was hazy, his body wobbling around. Yet he managed to catch some glimpses through the haze. Thank you, elder brother. After all these years I still can't catch up to you. It's fine, just be more careful next time. Releasing the claw, Zhuofan looked calm as before, still sitting with Chu Qingqing leaning on his shoulder, having felt nothing of what transpired. Even with all the chaos that went on, along with the ruckus and destruction, Zhuofan made sure to keep Chu Qingqing shielded from even the slightest tremor. Everyone else though was too shell-shocked to react. Ouyang Chongqing was gaping even. It was beyond his expert comprehension how the merchant he asked to come watch turned into a world expert himself. The divine move used to crush the ice dragon was beyond sublime. With the ice dragon using sealing, only a divine sword could touch it, but even his dad would have a hard time doing it. Just who the hell is that freak? Shengwan Qingyan looked on with adoration. But seeing Zhuofan and Chu Qingqing hand in hand, with the pretty face leaning on his shoulder, her joy plunged into confusion. Who is she to him? Why is he so caring with her? I've never seen him act like this with anyone. Gu Yifan. A sudden cry entered her confused mind and saw Murong Shui frowning with a complex gaze at Zhuofan. Shengwan Qingyan looked around and rushed to whisper, Sister Shui, are you sure? How can he be that Gu Yifan? He might wear a mask, but I'll never forget the child next to him. Murong Shui was convinced. I also know the black thunder flame he used as well. Black flames are a rarity across the world. It is him, beyond any doubt. Clenching her fists, Shengwan Qingyan lowered her head. How am I supposed to turn this around when Sister Shui is dead set on her suspicion? Curses, Sister Shui is too much of a stickler for righteousness and will definitely tell others. What to do? Shengwan Qingyan was anxious while looking from Zhuofan to Murong Shui. Murong Shui picked on her cues and whispered, Yenner, did you already know him? No way. Only what I heard from you, haha. Shengwan Qingyan flinched and forced a straight face on. Murong Shui's hard stare was unnerving. Yenner, you don't then? Then why were you so nervous seeing him about to get hurt? Fess up, did you know he was here? Shengwan Qingyan caved under Murong Shui's hard stare, squeezing a helpless nod. Yet you still covered for him? Do you have any idea how dangerous he is? Sister Shui, he said he came here to save his son. He's no threat to our lands. And you believed him? Of course I did. He helped get our soaring sword back. Shengwan Qingyan turned defiant under the assault, speaking with conviction, and I saw how much he cared for his son. He won't ever use his son as an excuse, especially when his life is on the line. Murong Shui's eyes shook and frowned in thought. Shengwan Qingyan was anxious. Sister Shui, I beg of you, don't tell on him, please. He's not bad. If he's so nice, then there's no good left in the world. Murong Shui rolled her eyes, then sighed as she looked at Zhuofan. I don't need to say anything. His attack painted a target on him. The Sea-Bright sect will place a high value on him, and it's just a matter of time before he's found out. Then let him fake for a while longer. Shangwan Qingyan sighed as looked at Zhuo Fan with deep concern. Murong Shui sighed and shook her head. One guard saw everything that had happened and whispered to Zhuo Fan, "Sir, I fear we're now the center of attention. Our cover will be blown." "I know." Zhuo Fan glanced at the peaceful Chu Qingqing and smiled, but it was all worth it. Qingqing shouldn't have been like these for so many years and should close her eyes and get well. It's what I owe her, what I... Zhuo Fan looked lost and the guard understood as he retreated. Shui Ruohua stared into Zhuo Fan's expressive eyes with astonishment. "Sir, why do I find you familiar? Have we met?" Zhuo Fan remained silent. Whoosh! Exalted He Ran suddenly landed before them. Giving a long look to Zhuo Fan, he helped Yi Lin from the ground and cupped his hands. "Thank you, sir, for your help. How may I address you?" "Steward Qian Fan." Zhuo Fan replied. Exalted He Ran started, "Qian clan, from the northern lands." "Yes." "Oh, northern lands have such amazing talent." Exalted He Ran gave him one last look then cursed inside. He thought Yi Lin and Zhuo Fan from western lands were the peak of what was humanly possible in terms of talent. Now he found that there was one more obscene genius, from northern lands. Talent comes in all sizes in every generation and from anywhere. The world will change. Exalted He Ren inspected Yi Lin's weak body then said to Shui Ruohua, "Take Qingqing, I'm taking you back to look after your wounds." "Hold." Shui Ruohua rushed to obey and take Chu Qingqing, but Zhuo Fan intervened. Zhuo Fan looked at Chu Qingqing with her eyes closed and said, "Only brother here is wounded. Senior can just take him. Miss needs peace to get well, don't disturb her. You can all mind yourself, since he is far more important to you, sir. It's best if you don't delay his healing." "Ugh!" Exalted He Ran knew sarcasm when he heard it. A clear criticism for abandoning them over Yi Lin. He sighed and cupped his hands again before leaving with Yi Lin. Shui Ruohua was stumped as to what to do. Whoosh! Ouyang Lingtian came next, on the stage and raised his hand at the uncaring son, who was now shaking in fear at his dad's presence. "You fool, you almost sent us all to oblivion, you know that?" "I know, the elders told me." He held his head with a guilty look, quickly changing topics, "But shouldn't we be tending to the world channel and seal it first? We need to stop the power from flowing in." Why is there no more sword energy in the sky?" "Ouyang." Lingtian huffed in anger, "There's no need to seal it, not when it closed itself." "How peculiar, then. Weren't you saying that you were clueless and that the elders had to fill you in?" Ouyang Lingtian railed it on him, "Damn brat, listen up. The worldly power needs to be drawn into the secular world to be controlled. To simplify, your art did that. The world went berserk because you changed the target of the drawing. Like before, the ice dragon became the target, making it so the worldly power focused on him. Once the ice dragon is no more, then there's no one drawing it. Of course the world will return to normal." Ouyang Chongqing bobbed his head. A weakened yet firm voice reached them, "Ouyang Chongqing, let's fight again." It was Yi Lin who was now carried away by Exalted He Ran. "Humph, just a fight. Next time I'll just use one art to beat you again. Let me tell you, the best in the alliance will one day be yours truly, ha ha ha." Bam! Ouyang Lingtian had enough of his boasting and cuffed him over the head, "You're fighting nothing. Haven't you caused enough trouble? And I thought the best in the four lands had been settled already." Ouyang Lingtian's eyes shone as he looked at Zhuo Fan. Everyone stared as well in realization. Maybe not only the best disciple in the alliance. Chapter 1027, Watched. Chapter 1027, Watched. Proofreader, Papatonks. Ouyang Chongqing felt conflicted as he looked at Zhuo Fan. He could tell the other was strong, but did not mean he was ready to admit it, Unless a proper match is taking place, no one can say who's stronger. What's the point? That exchange was enough to show the difference between you. Ouyang Ling Tian gave him a sharp glare, then spoke heavily, that ice dragon is something you and the Western Land's disciple have made with your power. It can be said he fought both of you then and easily beat it. He is far above you in this aspect, and Ouyang Ling Tian grew silent at the end, and Ouyang Chongqing got curious, and the ice dragon used your strongest heaven sealing sword art, yet he easily broke it. This shows he is above you. He is in another class than you who are fighting for the best disciple in the Four Lands. You just can't win against him. Morong Shui was the one to finish Ouyang Lingtian's words. He was staring at his father with eyes filled with questions, and Ouyang Lingtian nodded. Shui is right. I've been fighting for so many years, but not once have I seen any divine sword's power being restrained. Not even invincible sword sundering sword art has such power. But just who is he? Ouyang Lingtian stared at Zhuo Fan filled with doubt. The others were also curious, trying to guess his background. At the very least, they could rule out being a tiny steward to some merchant clan. Morong Shui kept her promise to Shengguan Qingyan and did not say a word. Not like they needed her help, since Zhuo Fan gave himself away in broad daylight. He was in the limelight and there was no escaping it. Sea Bright's sect was not about to overlook such a mysterious and dangerous element slipping into their home either. They were all looking tense, trying to pick his every tell. Zhuo Fan acted oblivious, just sitting there with a girl on his shoulder, not wanting to disturb her. I am Ouyang Lingtian of Sea Bright's sect. Who might Sir be, and where do you come from? What brings you to the Sea Bright sect? Seeing how the strange mood had no effect on Zhuo Fan, Ouyang Lingtian came over before this seemingly radiant stage cultivator. He dared not disrespect in the least. The rest looked intently at the exchange. Ouyang Chongqing still refused to believe what was happening. His father, the best in Northern Lands, was paying respects to some junior. It only went to prove how much the best in Northern Lands evaluated Zhuo Fan, no less than at his level. Since he got rid of the Heaven Sealing Sword art in one move, it meant that such power was the nemesis of the Heaven Sealing Sword. As its wielder, he was definitely concerned. While the cultivation was far below, the skill use put him on edge. Zhuo Fan gave him a look and knew he could no longer play innocent, having got to his usual mysterious and calculative self. He regarded the extremely respectful Northern Lands senior and spoke casually, Senior Ouyang, I am only a steward of the Qian clan coming to deliver goods. Let's leave it at that. Qian steward? Ha ha ha, does Sir take me for a child? We know everything about the Qian clan and there's no one like you among it. Ouyang Lingtian shook his head. I don't want to force Sir to be honest, but the situation is critical now. Your sudden presence here terrifies us all. I have no choice but to offend Sir to avoid any problems. I can only ask for your forgiveness. Ouyang Lingtian's face was cold, giving the elders a look. The dozens of Genesis stage elders had the merchant group surrounded. The guards tensed, awaiting for Zhuo Fan's orders. Shengguan Qingyan started, clenching her fists with a frown and a pained heart. Morong Shui shook her head, while the Western Lands disciples and Sea Bright sect disciples watched the events unfold. Shui Ruohua and the other girl were just confused, looking at Zhuo Fan in wonderment. How did he turn dangerous? Who is he, to need to arrest him? Zhuo Fan didn't move still, looking gracefully at the peaceful girl leaning on him. He then glanced at Ouyang Lingtian. Senior Ouyang, could you give me a moment to sit better? Sit better? What for? Ouyang Lingtian had no idea what trick Zhuo Fan was trying to pull. Zhuo Fan shook his head. Senior Ouyang, I just want to sit and nothing else. After all the destruction the ice dragon caused, it will make for a nice sunset to enjoy with the ice covering everything. Enjoy the sunset? Ouyang Lingtian's brow twitched, looking around the icy and snow-covered ruins, then at Zhuo Fan with a dumb look. What's up with this guy? There's no shock, panic, fear, nor anger, just the intention to watch the scenery. Is he alright? Ouyang Ling Tian was floored by the deep eyes behind the eagle mask. Zhua Fan's request had him stumped. The others let Ouyang Ling Tian take the lead and would not stop now. So all were looking dumb at Zhua Fan, who just wanted to enjoy twilight. They had seen their fair share of people in their long lives as cultivators, against sly weasels or rash fools, but Zhua Fan took the cake. Chu Qingqing opened her eyes, much clearer than before, but still vacant. She then left Zhua Fan's side. Qingqing is awake. Shui Ruohua lit up and spoke in gratitude. After all these years, this is the first time she had such a peaceful rest. Even with all the chaos around, it's a miracle she could sleep for so long. Shui Ruohua teared up. Zhua Fan nodded at Chu Qingqing and said, "Senior Ouyang, let's go. Miss Shui, I'll leave Miss Chu in your care. Did you stay like that so you won't disturb her?" Ouyang Ling Tian saw Zhua Fan showing no change, but then it hit him, "I get it now. Sir, after you." Ouyang Ling Tian gestured and a couple elders approached Zhua Fan to detain him. Zhua Fan didn't fight, walking away with a deep gaze as Shui Ruohua held Chu Qingqing. "Qingqing, after I save young Sanzi, I will come get you and will never leave your side again." "Paw!" He barely made a step as Chu Qingqing reached out and gripped Zhua Fan's hand. Zhua Fan started and looked on with hope. Is Qingqing awake? What he saw was the same empty eyes, even as her soft hand held on to him, like something precious, unwilling to let go. Shui Ruohua tried to pull her, but the grip wouldn't give. Shui Ruohua was awkward, looking puzzled. What's got into Chu Qingqing? Zhua Fan knew that she reached for him out of instinct. No matter when or where, even with her faded mind, her memories gone, her feelings would never change. Chu Qingqing was holding on to Zhua Fan all because of those feelings. Zhua Fan's heart was in pain again, speaking firmly to Ouyang Ling Tian, "Senior Ouyang, could you also bring Miss wherever you're taking me?" Chapter 1028, Snow Peak 4 Elders. Chapter 1028, Snow Peak 4 Elders. Proofreader, Papatonks. Sure, as long as the people from Western lands agree. He gave Chu Qingqing a long look and understood the situation, that it would not help Zhua Fan's case either way. By looking at their hands so tightly held, Ouyang Ling Tian had a guess as to what they might be. There was no reason not to indulge him this small request and nodded. He couldn't just as well turn antagonistic, not before having an idea of who Zhua Fan was, where he came from and the side he took. Zhua Fan gave a smile and a nod, then turned to Shui Ruohua. She got the idea, seeing how Chu Qingqing and him were so close, it might actually work in Chu Qingqing's favor and help her recover faster. She gave her approval and let go of Chu Qingqing's hands. Chu Qingqing showed a faint smile, finally at Zhua Fan's side and sticking to his arm like glue. Sea Bright Sect's elder escorted Zhua Fan and the guards under careful watch, just like prisoners. Shengwan Qingyan witnessed from the side with worry for Zhua Fan on one hand, and confusion on the other. Zhua Fan had never been thoughtful to any woman around her, to the point he'd even do all he could not to disturb her sleep. But who is she? Junior Sister Shui, what is going on? Who is he and why did you let Junior Sister Qingqing go with him? I don't know either, but they seem to be very close. Qingqing felt at peace around him. I believe that letting her stay with him will help her recover. Wu Qingqiu rushed to Shui Ruohua for an answer, but she didn't know much else either. Yan Imo grumbled, how can you be so careless? He's too much of an enigma and has the Sea Bright sect watching him. By letting Chu Qingqing go with him might end up with using her as a shield in the end. How are we going to save her then, in Sea Bright sect's home no less? They wouldn't just cave under his conditions just because you're a Western lands disciple. What else was I supposed to do? You saw it too, her hands were glued to him and wouldn't let go. Her mind is lost, so of course she's being hard on us. Don't you get that simple truth? Why you? Yan Imo and Shui Ruohua bickered, with Wu Qingqiu frowning in thought. He then rushed over and cupped his hands at Ouyang Ling Tian, Senior Ouyang, my junior sister with a frail mind has now gone with that unknown man. I only ask Senior to look after her if anything happens. I understand, you don't have to say it. But there's no need to worry, since he has no ill will towards your junior sister. Ouyang Ling Tian cut him off with a dismissive wave. Wu Qingqiu looked lost. Senior, how are you so sure? His feelings for your junior sister are plain to see, and she leans on him too. This can't be faked. Ouyang Ling Tian spoke. I've been around for many years and can read a situation. Your junior sister will be in complete safety at his side, ha ha ha. Ouyang Ling Tian laughed and patted his shoulder, then left them there confused. Ouyang Ling Tian walked to his son and raised his hand, making Ouyang Chongqing tuck his head and kneel with a sullen look. Ouyang Ling Tian watched his reckless and wild son with gnashed teeth, lowering his hand in the end, resorting to chiding. Damn it, boy, have you any idea what storm you stirred today? You not only caused so much harm to your fellow disciples, sealed as they are, needing to be taken to Heaven's Sealing Pavilion to recover, you also forced me to take the Heaven Sealing Sword from its place, weakening the barrier. What if Invincible Sword used this chance to strike? If the sect fell, it would all be on you. I need to get the sword back at once and report to sect leader about Steward Chen. Once everything is settled, I'll come deal with you. Ouyang Ling Tian flicked his sleeve and flew away, leaving Ouyang Chongqing with a pained gaze and disgruntled face. Then I wish for it to never settle. As long as Dad's busy, he won't deal with me. This Ouyang Chongqing. Morong Shui could read him like a book, shaking her head and saying, Yenner, don't you think he hasn't matured one bit? Yenner. Shangwan Qingyan wasn't there though. Wu Qingqiu had got Ouyang Lingtian's answer and consoled his group before leaving as well. As he went, Wu Qingqiu's mind was deep in thought. Shui Ruohua suddenly found her path blocked by someone unexpected. Miss, are you? Shangwan Qingyan from Eastern Lands. She made a bow. Shui Ruohua looked puzzled. Miss Shangwan, why have you suddenly appeared like this? I want to know everything about that lady, down to the smallest detail. Can you tell me? Shangwan Qingyan looked straight in Shui Ruohua's eyes. Shui Ruohua started in confusion. Why is she interested in Qingqing? Shui Ruohua gauged her restless eyes and nodded in the end. An hour later, the moon now replaced the sun in the sky as the night fell. A flash of light appeared on Beyond Heaven Island, on the highest pavilion, connecting it to the sky, making it a true abode of immortals. Ouyang Ling Tian appeared here, walking towards the copper pillar, 2 meters tall by ½ meter wide, covered in signs that glowed faintly. He took a deep breath, and presented the Heaven Sealing Sword with utmost respect. I have borrowed the divine sword and now come to return it. I ask the 4 venerables to activate the barrier and put the divine sword in its rightful place. Ha ha ha, that was quick. An aged voice echoed in the pavilion, followed by the appearance of 4 elders with white beards on each side of the copper pillar. Ling Tian, we have lent the sword on account of the sect being in mortal danger. Now that you have come to return it, we would like some answers. Ouyang Ling Tian shook his head. The misfortune of the sect came upon by my wretched son, almost unleashing a calamity. Ouyang Ling Tian sighed and gave a full account of the events. The elders turned grave. Chongqing is a good seed with his amazing talent, but it got to his head and affects his mind. The stronger he is, the bigger the fall. Ling Tian, he's your son and you need to set him straight. Regardless of his great future, it will only bring glory to the sect as long as he walks on the righteous path. But if he turns evil, the world will suffer. He cannot be indulged. I shall take Venerable's advice to heart. Ouyang Ling Tian felt ashamed. The 4 made signs and the barrier on the pillar opened. 1 elder gestured and the Heaven Sealing Sword in Ouyang Ling Tian's hands flew above the copper pillar, hovering quietly. The elders changed their signs and the barrier was restored. The Heaven Sealing Sword shone brightly in an icy blue glow, but with barrier in place, it did not travel far, sucked in by the copper pillar. The entire sect's barrier shook then and took on an icy blue glow, mystical and enchanting. The 4 elders nodded. Now the sect barrier is strong and peace is restored. Not even Invincible Sword can get in. ha ha ha. Yes, venerables, I shall now take my leave as I have matters to discuss with sect leader. Patriarch bowed. The four waved him off and he withdrew. Their eyes, however, failed to notice a delicate shadow watching on like a viper. That's why there's not a guard around Heaven's Sealing Pavilion. The strongest four sword guardians, Snow Peak four elders, watch it. The pillar's shadow wiggled and Bali Yuyu appeared in the darkness, looking at the four elders with a frown. The four combined have the power of a sword king, just as strong as Ouyang Lingtian. Getting the sword will be difficult, not to mention a long battle that will draw in more trouble. What to do? Chapter 1029, Desperate Measures. Chapter 1029, Desperate Measures. Proofreader, Papatonks. Bali Yuyu stared hard at the four elders from the shadows, hesitation plaguing her heart. Zhuofan had her take the sword tonight, but it was obvious that wouldn't go as smoothly in the best sect of northern lands, even for a sword king like herself. God damn it, what now? I'm not good when it comes to thinking. Bali Yuyu couldn't see any way out of this. What would that punk do? Seeing him always coming up with a plan for everything, then this situation oughtn't be any different. Why can't I think of anything then? She was scrounging up all the brain power she could muster for a way out, though she still came up empty. The Heaven Sealing Sword was behind a barrier and was also powering it. That meant she no longer had any way of taking it by force. To say nothing of the four strong elders guarding it. It was a flawless defense that she had no way of breaching. Should I just go back and ask him? Thinking about it, Bali Yuyu's mind wandered, but then shook the thought away. No, I agreed to take the sword tonight. Getting stuck and going to him for help will only make him laugh at me. I am the great frigid rain sword king for crying out loud. Though it's clear that force won't give me any result. What do I do then? What's more, I can't see any way of passing the unbreakable defense, so what could he do? Yeah, he can't do anything either. Besides, he had me come here to scout, while taking the sword over an afternoon is too hasty. His plan's the one with issues here, having nothing to do with me. Even if I dump this problem on him, he can't solve it either. Yep, definitely no solution. So there's no indignity in going back with an unsolvable problem. Bali Yuyu found the perfect excuse and simply gave up. She blended with the darkness and slipped away. She was going to Zhuofan to complain about this impossible task. Although Zhuofan had other matters to attend to at the moment, with the Sea Bright sect setting its eyes on him. In the Sea Bright sect's hall, Ouyang Lingtian stepped lightly and was stunned by what he saw. Besides sect leader Ling Yuntian, there was also exalted He Ran and Sun Si sect's Bu Xingyan. Ouyang Lingtian soon came to a realization and bowed. Sect leader, I assume you know. Of course. Ling Yuntian pointed at the two. Exalted He Ran and sect leader Bu had explained everything. I knew there was something special about Steward Qian, but even I didn't think he'd be so extraordinary. I'm stunned to hear that he destroyed a spirit formed by the worldly power in one blow. You know as well as I that only with the help of a divine sword can we hope to fight back when the power of the world converges. Bu Xingyan rolled his eyes. Sect leader Ling, why are you still praising him? He's a spy, Central Areas. My sect has already found him out. This only proves it. That's too soon to tell. Exalted He Ran waved. His skills are baffling and equally strong, but there's little evidence to support he came to see Bright's sect for nefarious reasons. Wild speculation will only harm the innocent. Harm an innocent? What kind of good can a man of unknown background bring in coming to see Bright's sect? If not a Central Area spy, what? Here to wish long life at sect leader Ling's birthday. So what if he is innocent? In these times of crisis, desperate measures are a must, like culling all unknown elements. Absolutely not, it will only bring more problems if we just kill without finding out who he is. Exalted He Ren refuted that proposal, frowning at the dreaded outcome. Bu Xingyan mocked, are you talking about the buzzing news about Devil Mountain's calamity? Humph, Exalted He Ran must now be paranoid. First of all, no one has ever seen Devil Mountain and it can just as well be fake. Secondly, even if it's real, you think its disciples are all over the place? You think you're just going to bump into one at every step? The chances this time are high. Exalted Ran winced, his strength is beyond comprehension. How many youths in the lands can match him? Who else but Devil Mountain could bring about such a disciple? If he does come from there, all the more reason we cannot mess with him. Devil Mountain must have sapped all your nerves. If Devil Mountain's disciple is against northern lands, are we just going to watch with a smile? Devil Mountain never involves itself with secular matters. As long as we don't touch them, they won't bother us either. What if they touch us? No, this has never happened before. All right. Ling Yuntian stepped in their quarrel, shouting, "This is the Seabright sect. We decide how we handle suspects here. It's not your problem to consider." The two huffed in anger. Ling Yuntian sighed and said, "Ling Tian, how did you deal with him?" "I dare to not do anything without sect leader's approval. From what I've learned of his actions, he is not just anyone and would not make things harder. For now, the elders have sealed their yuan qi and placed it behind a barrier, awaiting sect leader's orders." "And what about the matter of the sealed soaring sword?" Ling Yuntian asked. Ouyang Ling Tian shook his head. "The sealing and breaking ways from the heaven sealing sword we know of should be supreme, but it seems this seal on soaring sword is so strange that neither method, or any other, work. It makes us wonder who the culprit could be to know of such incredible sealing. We will need time to research it before we can break it." Shengguan Feixiong is one stubborn fool, insisting on releasing the seal all by himself, even after half a year of fruitless results. If it hadn't been for us two old men stumbling upon this 3 days ago, we might have never known, ha ha ha, Exalted Ran sighed. Ouyang Ling Tian nodded. "Ran, you have the cheek to say that? You'd never tell us either. It'd still be in the dark if it weren't for Murong Lai calling me to help. The old coot had us keep our lips sealed so he wouldn't look bad. You two geezers have no sense of priorities to actually agree with him." Ouyang Ling Tian rolled his eyes. Ling Yuntian turned grave. "The unsealing of the soaring sword takes the highest priority as of now. Once the seal is lifted and all leaders of every land gathered, we can then investigate Steward Chen and discuss how to address the issue." They all agreed, with only Bu Xingyan grumbling, "Just kill him and be done with it." Also, Ling Yuntian glared at him. "Sect leader Bu, you're in Seabright sect. Could you please respect our rules? Keep your eyes to yourself." "Ugh." Bu Xingyan winced. "Sect leader Ling, what's that supposed to mean?" "Ha ha ha, sect leader Bu is sure to know. In the Seabright sect, I know everything that's happening. You had your disciple monitor Chen Fan's group. How else would you have known so fast and be the first to report to me on this matter? I am only doing it for the safety of Seabright sect. Sect leader Ling, please don't misunderstand." Bu Xingyan gave a forced smile. "Pa!" Ling Yuntian patted his shoulder with a smile. "If sect leader Bu wants me not to misunderstand, then please take actions that aren't subjected to suspicion. Try not to overstep again." Bu Xingyan gave him a long look and shook as he nodded. This guy ain't as kind on the inside as on the outside. In a rather spacious cell, Zhuofan's team sat calmly with their cultivation sealed. The walls were unbreakable and even many spatial barriers in place to prevent any from getting out. Chao was the only one overlooked, the Seabright sect elders buying into her actually genuine childish act. How tough could a child be? Zhuofan looked calm, ignoring the dark mood in the cell, holding on to the pretty girl's hand. "Sir, what do we do now? It's completely opposite from our plan," one guard asked. Zhuofan shook his head. "If the plan can't keep up with reality, it can only adapt to include the changes. At worst, we'll be waiting a few days in here before we get to work. They're not letting us out of their sights." "Is Sir that sure? Why else would I be so calm? Now stop talking." Chapter 1030, Constant Visitation. Chapter 1030, Constant Visitation. Proofreader, Papatonks. With a shaky brow behind the eagle mask, Zhuofan looked beyond the bars on reflex. The jail door opened with a creak and the unchanged figure of Wu Qingqiu stepped in before him. With a pleased smile, he looked in excitement as he got closer and closer to Zhuofan. Zhuofan shook his head with a chuckle. What gave it away? Of everyone on this heaven's green earth, only brother Zhuo would ever feel so much love for junior sister Qingqing. This goes both ways as well, with junior sister Qingqing only ever trusting brother Zhuo from the bottom of her heart. Wu Qingqiu's eyes shone and sighed. I had a hard time believing that a good friend who has been gone for so many years would appear before me. It was thanks to Senior Ouyang's words that had me jump to such a wild conclusion. He said you would never harm junior sister out of love, and he was right. That leaves only you who has such undying love for her. Thus the only solution, however impossible and no matter how unlikely the person, is the most probable. For which I have come to see if you're real. Zhuofan shook his head. He traced the eagle mask and slowly lowered it. Brother Wu is wise beyond his years. You found me out. Without me or Yi Lin back then, Western Lands would have had you as its best disciple. Brother Wu is without equal. I knew it. Why, you're really here. Ignoring his words, Wu Qingqiu took in his calm smile and sharp eyes as emotions overwhelmed him. He needed a good minute to get his heart to calm down. It was truly a shot in the darkest of abysses, yet it ended up being real. Where have you been all these years, even leaving your wife behind? Zhuofan looked back and said nothing. Wu Qingqiu glanced at the ever-soothed yet vacant Chu Qingqing on his arm with a crestfallen look. A man always wants to leave his mark. Whatever business you had that needed finishing, no one could have stopped you. Junior sister Qingqing is very reasonable and would have let you go. The least you could have done was to come back safely and not do this to junior sister. Her hair not only turned white but she also closed her mind to everyone. As for you, I see you've recovered from your pain, by the looks of your fine black hair, doing quite well for yourself. I barely recognized you. Wu Qingqiu's tone held some blame and anger at how Zhuofan treated Chu Qingqing, who he saw as a good sister. Zhuofan had no retort, taking in all of his rebuke. You have been someone we admire the most, especially by Yan Mo and of course by little junior brother. Wu Qingqiu glared at him. You've excelled in mind and in strength, earning our full respect. When we heard that you had been killed, many of us wanted revenge. We had taken upon ourselves to take care of the widow you left behind. Even that rampant Yan Mo is thoughtful towards junior sister Qingqing, all because everyone in our generation sees you as the true best in Western Lands. And what did you do? Faked your death and vanished for 4-5 years. You have let down junior sister Qingqing, who has always been hoping for your return, and you have let down your brothers who looked up to you. Wu Qingqiu's tone only grew angrier. Zhuofan took a deep breath, feeling shame. Be it 4 or 5 years, it's still a long time. I believed that I could take on everything myself. Qingqing would have been in pain but then followed by relief, as in a decade or two, her wound would begin to heal and in 50 years she would have moved on. A century later, she wouldn't even remember me. The deepest love would be buried in the sands of time, right? But Zhuofan felt his heart bleed every time he looked into those dull eyes of his wife. Junior sister Qingqing didn't even wait. The moment you were proclaimed dead, her heart died with you. Wu Qingqiu was grave. I just want to know, why didn't you come back if you were safe? No matter how much you changed, she still could tell it was you even back at the stage. Maybe if you stay with her, you could open her heart again. In the matters of the heart, only the cause can heal it. No pill in this world can heal her, for you are her cure. Zhuofan shook his head in desolation. I cannot see her, because I hope she will learn to forget me. Why? It's for her own good. I don't want to hurt her. Zhuofan squeezed her hand. If I die tomorrow, am I supposed to let her die with me? Wu Qingqiu started. What's that supposed to mean? My life isn't my own and can be reaped at a whim. I just don't want to burden her. Zhuo Fan gave a long sigh. Wu Qingqiu was stunned. I may not know what trouble you're in, but I can see your point. Are you saying that all you've done was for her to live? Zhuo Fan nodded, his eyes glazing from being weary. Sorry, I forgot myself there. I should have known you'd never be so cruel to junior sister Qingqing. Wu Qingqiu relented and bowed after some thought. Zhuo Fan waved his hand. It's fine, telling me off actually made me feel a bit better. I am rather very grateful to you and all who took the time to look after Qingqing these years. Wu Qingqiu shook his head. It's what a fellow brother does, all natural. What natural? You don't understand women at all. A nagging voice came out from behind, if I may say so, and the eldest senior brother of Double Dragon Manor, you should be tearing into this cruel man for dumping his wife. The two looked back to see with a start that it was Shengwan Qingyan with red eyes from crying and looking at them with indignation. Zhuo Fan was puzzled. What are you doing here? What do you think the jail of Sea Bright Sect is? This isn't a playground. Yeah, I told seniors outside not to let anyone disturb us. Why can you? Wu Qingqiu looked baffled at her. Bang! Shengwan Qingyan stomped on her way over, cursing in the meantime. I know you're Double Dragon Manor's eldest senior brother Wu Qingqiu and that those seniors let you in because of your importance in Double Dragon Manor, but you're just a disciple. I, however, am the young miss of the Shengwan clan, the apple of my father's eye. So who do you think those oldies will favor more? Ugh! Wu Qingqiu was lost for words. True, Double Dragon Manor is leading Western lands, but I'm just a disciple within its grounds. No matter how much favor I have, it'll last for a few decades tops. When the next batch of new guys come, I'll soon be forgotten. While the Shengwan clan of Eastern lands would always hold their young miss in the highest regard regardless. Their statuses were just worlds apart. Those oldies would of course not step on Eastern lands' young miss toes the most. Wu Qingqiu rolled his eyes and grumbled. Sea Bright Sect's elders sure are tough. He failed to notice that they wouldn't let a Western lands disciple see their greatest suspect unless they were tough. It was all due to not wanting to piss off Double Dragon Manor that was behind him that they let him through. As pissing off Double Dragon Manor meant pissing off all of Western lands. They couldn't take the blame. The same went for Shengwan Qingyan. So this young missy stormed into the jail and right in Zhuo Fan's face as she glared. Young Miss Shengwan, did I do something to anger you? Zhuo Fan looked confused. Shengwan Qingyan's lip trembled and nodded. Yeah, you did, because you have no clue what women think. Come again? Zhuo Fan paused, turning to Wu Qingqiu for answers, but he was just as clueless, offering an unhelpful shrug. Zhuo Fan, I know all about you and your wife, every single detail. Shengwan Qingyan's eyes flared with anger. You've gone through so much together, so why are you such a blockhead? Don't you see what she wants? Zhuo Fan winced, turning grave. Chapter 1031, Breakout. Chapter 1031, Breakout. Proofreader, Papatonks. Staring at Zhuo Fan's clueless face, Shengwan Qingyan sighed and her features softened. You said in the central area that you abandoned your wife because she would die with you, right? But what if that was what she wanted? Well, I didn't. Zhuo Fan spoke heavily. I just couldn't have her enter hell because of me. It's like pushing her into the abyss. I'm no saint, but this is something I could never do. Yet your wife was more than happy to join you in hell. No, unacceptable. Zhuo Fan shook his head. She wants to be with me, so of course I want to as well. But being selfish for a brief period would get her killed, something I don't want to see. That's why it's better if she forgets me. Zhuo Fan caressed Chu Qingqing's white hair, hurt just by seeing her so unresponsive. But not like this. I only hoped she would forget me alone. She forgot everyone, even herself, all but you, right? Shengwan Qingyan glanced at the dull gaze of Chu Qingqing and teared up again. Zhuo Fan shook and closed his eyes. Recalling how Chu Qingqing shunned Annie at the fight earlier, while only showing fondness to him, a stranger in an eagle mask, he heard even more. Shangwan Qingyan lowered her head and sighed, I don't want eternity, only a moment. Zhua Fan, these were Chu Qingqing's last words. Do you know what they mean? What? I've pressed senior sister Ruahua for every detail and she said Miss Chu had always been muttering this right before she lost herself. Shangwan Qingyan sighed, Sir Zhua is a man of lofty ambitions and achievements. Be it as Zhua Fan or Gu Yifan, any place that he's found in is bound to be overturned and danger to follow. Miss Chu was ready. Since she chose you, she was willing to accept everything. She didn't mind not spending eternity together, as long as she was there next to you. This was her deepest wish. But you had been so selfish and decided by yourself to cut it off. You said it's all for her, so she could be safe and away from you, but did you ever stop to think what she wanted? You gave her all you could, but robbed her of all she wanted. She is living well, but she might as well be dead. Sir Zhua, is this your love for her? Such selfishness. Zhua Fan's eyes shook, his body trembled, filled with regret as he looked at Chu Qingqing's dull features. I was truly wrong. True demonic cultivators can break away from the hypocrisies and deceits, but they can't fight love, ha ha ha. Zhua Fan's eyes were filled with sorrow. A demon should never have felt attachment. Attachment cuts off the demonic path and traps you. I could scheme over anything in the world, but always become powerless in the face of love. I wanted what's best for my wife, but ended up hurting her the most. If this was a backlash, then Zhua Fan admitted he failed in this aspect. Not only was his wife hurt, but he was crushed in this battle as well. Zhua Fan stood with a blank stare, with Shangwan Qingyan and Wu Qingqiu feeling his pain. The greatest pain in the world was having the opposite outcome of what you intended. What he thought would get him the best of both worlds ended up with him losing everything. Paw! A sudden hand gently landed on Zhua Fan's confused face. Zhua Fan looked startled at Chu Qingqing, running her hand through his hair in an effort to console him. Alas, those same empty eyes stared back into his soul. Wu Qingqiu lit up, Brother Zhua, don't lose heart. Ever since you came, junior sister Qingqing has shown great improvement. I believe that as long as Brother Zhua stays, junior sister Qingqing is sure to get better. Yes, now that I'm here, I will help her get well and never leave again. Touching the gentle hand on his hair, Zhua Fan stood and looked in Chu Qingqing's eyes as he spoke, even in death, I will always hold your hand. I won't let you walk the earth alone ever again. Shangwan Qingyan and Wu Qingqiu nodded with a smile. Though the former felt her own heartache. She was happy that Zhua Fan reunited with his dear wife, but it was also the cause of her pain. In the end, she rooted for the pair, to have a happy reunion and be together. As for herself, she felt great even only being young Sanzi's aunt. Shangwan Qingyan smiled, brighter than ever before. Wu Qingqiu looked dumbstruck as he smiled back. Chu Qingqing began to show signs of a smile too, a flicker of life coming and going in her empty eyes. Bam! The jail door was slammed open, making them jump. A bloody corpse missing an arm and leg flew in. The feisty woman showing up waltzed inside and shouted at Zhua Fan, Brat, you alright? I came to get you out. Who are you? There are 30 Genesis stage experts outside. How did you get in here? Wu Qingqiu gasped. The woman smirked, what can 30 puny Genesis old farts do anyway? They should be proud they could hold me for even a second. But what's with this jail's design, putting 2 Soul Harmony stage brats as guards at the end? I say, they're more and more rotten, ha ha ha. She flashed before the two with bloodthirst, ready to end them. Wu Qingqiu's eyes widened in panic. With how strong she looked, she of course had no trouble dealing with the Genesis elders outside, and silently too. She is deadly. She could kill them as easily as squashing ants and they couldn't even make a peep while at it. Wu Qingqiu grew grave and pale, sighing. Just what was wrong with today, always putting them in imminent danger. Stop, you. It was then a shout came. The bloodthirst-fueled finger halted and she looked from them to Zhuofan. What's the point in letting them live? Bali Yuyu failed to get the sword from the heaven-sealing pavilion and came back to discuss it with Zhuofan. There she found their team locked up. So while her head didn't always work straight, her fist was more than enough to compensate. She made the bright decision to break Zhuofan out and ask his big brain for a plan. Having him stuck behind bars left her with no clue what to do next. They're friends coming for a visit, not guards. Don't hurt them. Zhuofan waved. Whether accustomed or not, she actually listened with a shrug and patted the two, on the same side, ha ha ha. Sorry about that, don't mind it. It's fine, just don't mind it at all, ha ha ha. Wu Qingqiu looked tense, giving Zhuofan a puzzled look. What the hell has he been up to these years? Where did she find this powerhouse? Is she from Devil Mountain too? Oh, Devil Mountain. With all the memories being refreshed, he forgot to ask if Devil Mountain was real or just a thorough lie. But then glancing at Bali Yuyu, Wu Qingqiu flinched and kept his doubts to himself. Better leave it for later. Shangwan Qingyan was so terrified, she couldn't even make a peep. Bali Yuyu ignored the harmless brats and mocked, "Hey, Steward Qian, what's going on? I've been out with work for a bit and you got yourself imprisoned? You even had me come break you out. Steward Qian, has your shrewd mind finally come up empty for once? He. How stuck up you are." Zhuofan turned to the others with a smile. "See this face, allow me to teach you a life lesson. The next time you see someone like this, you're to step on it and beat it without remorse. For the moment one gets cocky over nothing, you'll come to regret having not hit it when you could." Bali Yuyu giggled, but then her face sank. Chapter 1032, You Can Go. Chapter 1032, You Can Go. Proofreader, Papatonks. Bali Yuyu gnashed her teeth and spat, "Rotten punk, you let your mouth run off and ended up in jail. Now I come to save you out of the kindness of my heart, but instead of thanks you're mocking me. What would you have done if I hadn't come along? Who asked you anyway?" Zhuofan scoffed with a raised eyebrow, holding on to Chu Qingqing's hand. "I was even hoping to stay here for a couple of days. Miss Yuyu is free to leave. I'm stuck here behind the barriers and can't go. Bye." "Hey!" Bali Yuyu's face twitched, annoyed with him to the extreme. She came to the rescue, but the more she looked, she noticed they were unlike any prisoners she saw. They were more like guests. "Is this your home? Are you free to come and go as you please? I even had to go through the guards." Burning with anger, Bali Yuyu stopped her cursing when she noticed Zhuofan holding hands with Chu Qingqing. Her anger evaporated, replaced by confusion. "Qian Fan, who is she?" "My wife." "Your wife?" Bali Yuyu flinched, feeling her heart skip a beat but also souring. But as a sword king, and particularly a warmonger, she wasn't about to let softness show on her features. She took a deep breath to calm herself. "Why haven't I heard about this, or seen her?" Zhuofan rolled his eyes. "Who are you to me for me to tell you everything? Humph, it's my fortune to be reunited with my wife. I shall treasure these days, imprisoned alongside her. Be sure to look after junior sister Qingqing, Zhuofan. You owe her too much after so many years." Wu Qingqiu said with a smile, forgetting there was a witch not up to 2 feet away. An expert that removed dozens of Genesis stage experts without a sound. Bali Yuyu looked confused and stared at Zhuofan. "Then I'll break you out of here. We'll talk once we're safe." "No, my wife's mind had suffered a shock and fighting will affect her. Staying here is much better. Just knock her out and we'll be off." "What did you say?" Zhuofan glared. "Bali Yuyu, listen here. She is my wife, touch her and you'll be sorry." Bali Yuyu was taken aback, having never seen Zhuofan be so determined. She knew the girl was very important to him and sighed with a lowered head. One guard mediated. "Sir, Miss Yuyu is only thinking of your own good. There's no need to turn cruel over a simple refusal, ha ha ha. This isn't about keeping calm. I won't let anyone touch her. Zhua Fan held Chu Qingcheng as he spoke with resolve. Bali Yuyu's face fell and gnashed her teeth. Shengwan Qingyan shook her head, feeling sad. Zhua Fan is more careful with Chu Qingcheng than with any other girl. Senior sister Ruahua was right. Zhua Fan and Chu Qingcheng were protective of each other, with no one able to separate them. Wu Qingqiu's face twitched and asked his most pressing question, Zhua Fan, you just called this Miss Bali Yuyu. What a coincidence for her to have the same name as the Central Area's frigid rain sword king, ha ha ha. That's me, it's not a coincidence. Zhua Fan stayed silent, but Wu Qingqiu and Shengwan Qingyan were frozen stiff. Frigid Rain Sword King is in Sea Bright sect and listening to this devious guy, but for what? Bali Yuyu ignored their shock and the fact she was found out. Since you don't want to leave, what are you planning? Didn't you aim for the North Sea? How are you going to reach it if you're stuck here? I'll leave when the moment is right. Thanks for caring. But for now, I want to be with my wife. You can go now. Go? If I go, who'll save you? Bali Yuyu roared, you think just anyone can burst into Sea Bright sect's jail? If I go, you'll either die or be stuck here till you die. It's none of your concern. No one can stop me from leaving when I want, nor take me away if I don't want to. Zhua Fan glared at her, his voice irreproachable. Frigid Rain Sword King, we're all behind bars so you don't have to stay as well and can go back to report to Invincible Sword. This is all I amount to, getting trapped by the Sea Bright sect. Devil Mountain Disciple is nothing much, not when Devil Mountain doesn't exist. You can go and tell him that. Your mission is over. Bali Yuyu bit her lip, not wanting to go, her eyes glaring back, you really don't need my help? No, now go. Zhua Fan sighed, with my wife by my side, I don't need another woman causing misunderstandings. As someone under me, tonight is your last task. The plan is a success and we can go our separate ways. As you are with Bailey Yutian, you can wait for my end then report it back to him. There's no need for you to be here anymore. Bali Yuyu shook, with her and Shengwan Qingyan feeling stabbed in the heart. Having him say there was no place for any girl around him other than his wife cut them deep. Bali Yuyu didn't go anywhere, speaking coldly, you think I want to stay around you? I've had enough ages ago, but with the Sea Bright sect's barrier so strong, I can't pass it. You didn't get the Heaven Sealing Sword? You think it's that easy? Bali Yuyu rolled her eyes, the Heaven Sealing Sword is behind an unbreakable barrier in the Heaven Sealing Pavilion. There are also the 4 Snow Peak Elders, the strongest defenders in northern lands, watching over it. Their combined attacks would be hard to face even for Ouyang Lingtian. How then am I supposed to do it? Could you steal it then? No. Obviously. But you can. Zhua Fan's eyes shone. Bali Yuyu paused, are you deaf? I can't beat those 4 and can't even break the barrier. I can't because I don't have the strength to face Sword King level experts. But you have it and can do it for me. Zhua Fan said, ever heard of diversion tactics? Bali Yuyu pondered and exclaimed, you want to draw them out? But they've been alive for thousands of years. You think such a simple trick will work? And I still can't deal with the barrier. Going after them is bound to fail, which is why we'll use a complex plan. Zhua Fan's eyes shone, because they're wise old men, they have many things and thus many leverages. Ever heard of rumors becoming real? Frigid Rain Sword King looked stumped. He gestured to her to get closer and Zhua Fan whispered dark secrets to her through the bars. Bali Yuyu gave him a look of confusion at the end, will it actually work? With the old coots so obsessed with their stuff, they're easy to dupe, even the wisest elders. Zhua Fan's eyes sparkled. Bali Yuyu nodded and left, I'll give it a shot. But if it doesn't work, I'll take it out on you. Don't go failing on purpose just to find me. This trick only works once. Don't waste my effort and brain cells. If it works, I wouldn't be caught dead coming back here. Bali Yuyu huffed and her footsteps sounded distant now. With the witch leaving, Wu Qingqiu gasped, "Zhuo Fan, are you siding with the Central Area's Sword Star Empire?" "Yeah, I thought you said you're not here to make trouble for northern lands," Shangguan Qingyan said hurriedly. Zhuo Fan said, "I'm not here for northern lands affairs nor am I on the Central Area's side. I'm doing it for myself. You can now go report, but don't mess with the plan. You heard it, right? I want to go to the North Sea and the Sea Bright sect would never lower the barrier for me. I can only borrow Bali Yu to weaken the barrier and make it easier for me to leave. This way it saves me a dragon breath pill, which is great, ha ha ha." Zhuo Fan had a wide smile plastered on his face, making the two confused. Outside the jail, Bali Yu looked furious around the corpses. She took a deep breath, about to throw away a token, but something held her back. It was the same token Zhuo Fan had the Qian clan prepare for her. Qian Fan's wife, Qian Yu, escorting goods. She heard voices nearby and Bali Yu gripped the token. She sniffed as her eyes teared over. She put the token away and flew for the Heaven Ceiling Pavilion. Chapter 1033, Robbery. Chapter 1033, Robbery. Proofreader, Papatonks. The stars shone bright on this quiet night. The four elders in the Heaven Ceiling Pavilion sat on each side of the copper pillar with closed eyes. Heaven's Ceiling sword was still shining blue, radiating power taken by the barrier. Boom! A sudden explosion tore the tranquility, with a huge fire breaking out 5 kilometers from beyond Heaven Island. The flames reach high in the sky, with the clouds reflecting a deep red. The four elders flinched awake, looking at the fire in the distance and heard the resulting ruckus. The sect members were running around to deal with it. What's going on? What could have made that noise inside the sect? One elder stroked his beard. Another elder shook his head and closed his eyes, "Doesn't matter. At worst, sect leader and Ling Tian will deal with it. We just need to do our job and guard this place. Nothing else matters than doing our part." The others regained calm after a pause, just sitting there in silence. Report. Yet 15 minutes later, a panicked shout reached the pavilion. A Sea Bright sect disciple flew before the four and started lamenting, "Venerables, this is bad. I Invincible Sword and 5 Sword Kings have broken in. Sea Bright sect Ling has fallen and senior uncle Ouyang Ling Tian is barely holding on. You have to help him, Venerables." "What?" The calm elders snapped their eyes open and stared at him in disbelief. "Are you sure? How, when our barrier is unbreakable? Invincible Sword would have no reason to be here either way. Why would they make such a sudden attack, for what purpose?" The guy didn't say anything, just looking frightened, being scared out of his mind and unable to calm down. "Hey, which elder's disciple are you? Why aren't you answering?" One venerable squinted and shouted in suspicion, "Did you see Invincible Sword and his team? Did you see the sect leader die?" The guy barely squeezed a word through the terror, "Why yes." The four elders grumbled. "What's with him acting so weird? His earlier report was clear, so why was he now stuttering so much? Venerables, get the Heaven Ceiling sword, quickly." Another shout came to the pavilion before they could make some sense of it all. A second disciple rushed in, looking miserable. He slumped at their feet and urged, "Senior Uncle Ling Tian is hurt badly. Double Dragon Manor and Shangguan clan have suffered severe casualties and can't hold on. Senior Uncle requests that Venerables go and help with the Divine Sword." He then spurted blood and fell unconscious from his heavy wounds. The four were alarmed. Is the battle outside that fierce? They've taken out the main resistance. Is the enemy that strong? The four looked shocked, but recalling Invincible Sword, they were instantly sure. With that old monster leading the charge and with the help of a Divine Sword, it'll be hard to stop him. 3 elders turned to the eldest brother. The elder frowned, his heart in chaos. He figured the best thing to do now was to understand what was happening. But it all happened so fast that there was no time, with the situation out of control and unable to make sense of it all. What am I supposed to do? Venerable, save us. A wail came from outside. The four elders' hearts thumped with worry. This time it was a female disciple bursting in, covered in wounds and her eyes filled with blood. She wept, Venerable's senior uncle Ouyang. The four elders shook, hurriedly asking, what happened to Ling Tian? Senior uncle was killed by invincible sword. The girl twitched one more time and cried as she fell unconscious as well. The four elders no longer looked at her, each shocked to the core. Ouyang Ling Tian, the strongest in northern lands and the only one to use the heaven-sealing sword to its full power, had just died at Invincible Sword's hands. The future of Sea Bright's sect was now ruined, all those thousands of years of glorious history brought to an abrupt end. The four panicked and their hearts sank. The noise outside only grew louder. One elder jolted back to his senses and said, "Eldest brother, we need to help the sect. We can't sit around while our disciples are being wiped out. There is no sect without them." "Yes, but there's rules regarding the sword." The High Venerable no longer sat around thinking, turning to the heaven-sealing sword with hesitation. The sword can never leave the pavilion, only in special circumstances. "If we take the sword then?" The other three elders cried out, "Eldest brother, we don't have time to mind the rules. Without the heaven-sealing sword, we can't stop Invincible Sword's sundering sword. Are you trying to let him kill more of us? This is an emergency and we don't have time to worry about that now. Are you afraid of losing the heaven-sealing sword?" High Venerable looked at them and then he nodded. "Yes, it's an emergency. Stopping the old monster comes first. This entire situation feels strange, but we need to act fast." With the four of them working together and wielding the heaven-sealing sword, nothing could stop them. High Venerable's eyes shone with conviction. "Release the barrier and take the sword." The other three nodded and made signs. Ripples began to spread from the barrier around the sword. The barrier then opened and allowed for the cold aura of the heaven-sealing sword to spread outside. It then began to hum, shaking and hovering above the copper pillar. High Venerable reached out for it. Whoosh! The sword turned into a cold glow and flew towards him. Whoosh! Silver sword energy waves came from nowhere just then, shooting for the elders. The dreaded aura they carried made them shiver and feel death breathing down their necks. The four jumped away to dodge. Bam! While they got out of the way, the heaven-sealing sword could not. With a clang, the sacred weapon got sent hurtling through the air. It was no longer able to tell where High Venerable was and just spun in place. It was then a woman flashed before the four and grabbed heaven-sealing sword. She landed 100 meters from them and spared them a cold gaze. She was none other than the female disciple coming to report. Only she now released a deadly aura that made even the four elders shiver. Who are you? Give heaven-sealing sword back." The four elders shouted at once, clenching their fists. She, however, made the wise choice to ignore them, looking at the divine sword with a flat look, devoid of any joy she might have hoped. The four elders were a match for even Ouyang Ling Tian, making it impossible for her to beat them. The same, however, applied for them. With both sides holding equal power, getting the sword from them was impossible as it was for the four to stop her. So while they were flinging threats, they knew the minute the Bali Yuyu got to the heaven-sealing sword, they had no chance of getting it back. That attack they did was only out of duty. Chapter 1035, I Cannot Die. Chapter 1035, I Cannot Die. Proofreader, Papatonks. Brother Wu, what do you think of my skill? Chu Qingqing sat in the gloomy jail, with Shuafan standing behind her, softly running the comb through her long silky locks, full of care and gentleness. It has only been 1 day since Qingqing and I got married and I had been forced to go to Double Dragon Manor, never getting the chance to comb her hair. It might be silly, but it was a wish of mine. You too can tell me if I'm doing it wrong. Wu Qingqiu's face twitched. Zhuofan, you're way too casual. Frigid Rain Sword King listened to you and went to steal Heaven's Sealing Sword. She might fail and be chased here, you'd be involved in the Central Area's matters, from which you can't come out alive. And if she succeeds, the Sea-Bright sect would have no way of dealing with her and will take their hatred on you, leading to death once more. I just can't figure out how you can be so indifferent about it. It's like it isn't your problem. Yeah, that Frigid Rain Sword King wanted to break you out of here. You could have accepted and all would be over. Why would you stay here to die? Shangwan Qingyan grew downcast. Zhuofan only had attention for combing his wife's hair, smiling, it's a bit messy. I know I'm not used to this, I just need practice. Qingcheng, sorry. Hey, Zhuofan, did you hear any word I said? All of it. Zhuofan rolled his eyes. First off, I told you I'm not with the Central Areas group, having my own interests. But the Sea-Bright sect won't believe you. No matter. Zhuofan smirked, then believing or not is all the same to my life. I cannot die either way, ha ha ha. Wu Qingqiu was baffled. What do you mean it's all the same? They're never going to allow a Central Area spy to live, on top of having killed so many experts of theirs. Those Genesis stage experts outside weren't killed by you, but since Bali Yu did it to save you, you'll still be implicated. In their anger, they'll even take your life. It will only be harder on Qingcheng, after finally coming back. Now you. Zhuofan gave him a gesture to be quiet as he showed a vague smile. Brother Wu, you're a righteous cultivator to the core, even your thinking is upright. Be it killing or spying, none have anything to do with me. If killing meant death, then there would be no murders. It's nothing more than a scare tactic. The strong have always preyed on the weak. With enough strength, no one can take your life no matter who you kill. Zhuofan paced around, tending to Chu Qingcheng's fine locks, his gentle care in complete dissonance with his cruel tone. Wu Qingqiu sighed, I know that, but you're now the weak one and about to be sacrificed. Aren't you scared? Why should I be? Zhuofan's eyes flashed, showing a devious smile. If they can strike me, you think I can't strike back? Unless they're backward enough to think like a dumb teenager and die together, they would never touch me. You really think that I was so open about letting them seal my cultivation and put me behind bars without any precautions? Wu Qingqiu's heart sank, being more confused than ever. Zhuofan's smirk turned serious when he looked at Chu Qingcheng. I couldn't die because I wanted to reunite with my wife one day. Now I cannot die even more, because she needs me. I am not about to let anyone take my life. Then I'll take it, demon. Bam! While a boom, the jail door burst open and a girl's voice echoed inside. Morong Shui appeared with a furious scowl, stomping down the steps while staring at Zhuofan, who didn't even pause from combing. Shangwan Qingyan rushed to block her good sister, seeing her so furious, doing anything to soothe her. Sister Morong, what's wrong? Why are you so furious? You dare ask me that? Did you not see the many corpses of Sea-Bright sect elders outside? Glaring at her, for the first time, Morong Shui yelled at her sweet little sister, scaring her away. Ignoring her infatuated sister with Zhuofan, Morong Shui glared, Gu Yifan, give me an answer. Did you kill those people? Word caught my ear that Southern Land's immortal healer Morong Shui is smart and sharp, but why is it that today you're so slow? Tending to Chu Qingcheng's temples, Zhuofan drawled, my Yuan Qi is sealed and am stuck in this barrier. You tell me how I am supposed to kill anyone. You stupid or what? Morong Shui gasped in hatred, you might not have done it, but that woman around you did the killing, didn't she? Yep. Zhuofan was blunt. Morong Shui gnashed her teeth, why has she been killing? Did you put her up to this? She did it to break me out. I asked you if you told her to kill so she could get you out. That's why I'm saying you're dumb. If I told her that, what would I still be doing here? I'd be miles away by now. Zhua Fan cocked an annoying eyebrow, mocking the irate girl further. There's no point in having her save me, so I had her leave. So why are you here, a trip to the sect dungeon? Shangwan Qingyan couldn't contain her giggle. Morong Shui glared at her and made her flinch in fright. But then she cautiously held her sister's trembling hand from rage, pleading, Sister Shui, it's true. The woman came to save him when we were here. But he didn't want to go, coming to terms with his crimes and turning a new leaf. Could you ask Brother Murong Lai to speak for him with sect leader Ling and let him go? A new leaf? Humph, his character is unchanging. Flinging her hand away, Murong Shui glared with hatred at Zhua Fan. Let me ask you, did you put that woman to make those 2 explosions in the sect? Don't try to deny it, I've seen the destruction and it couldn't be made by anyone other than a Sword King level expert. Except for the central area, only that woman around you has such power. Now that she's missing, it's obviously. There's 3 explosions. Zhua Fan cut her off with an evil smile. First was at a place far from Heaven's Ceiling Pavilion, the second at the Heaven's Ceiling Pavilion. As for the third. Zhua Fan's grin widened. She gnashed her teeth in frustration and anger. The sect barrier. I knew it was you behind it all. Yep, I had her do it, what about it? I'll kill you. Zhua Fan's callous admittance proved to have been the last push to Murong Shui's fury. She raised her palm and struck for Zhua Fan's head. Even with his cultivation sealed, he still showed no fear before impending doom. Bam! Zhua Fan just stood there with a smile, but Murong Shui had to withdraw 2 steps with a trembling hand. Her eyes were burning with even more rage. Plop! Zhua Fan smirked as he knocked the air 3 times. Miss Murong, better not call yourself smart again. You're more of a bonehead. I'm a prisoner here, Missy, with a strong barrier left by Genesis stage experts. While I can't get out, neither can you get in. Miss Murong, you're better off asking sect leader Ling to open them if you still plan on killing me. Judging by that savage strike just now, your hand must be crushed, yet it still couldn't touch a hair on my head. Ha ha ha, I'm sorry, really I am. Here I am, at my weakest, yet you can't even reach me. Gu Yifan, you're one vile demon. Just you wait. We'll just see how long your cocky attitude lasts. Murong Shui glared at Zhua Fan's taunting gaze and scrunched her teeth harder. She then flicked her hand and left. I'll report everything to sect leader Ling, he'll deal with you. First you slaughtered people in the Sea Bright sect, then you broke their barrier. Zhua Fan didn't even flinch, looking at her in ridicule. Shangwan Qingyan started and begged, Sister Shui, don't. He really hasn't done anything in jail. He's good. Good my ass. Even if he doesn't move a muscle, disaster will still befall everyone, just like it did Central Area's Serene Shores Trading. He is a devil, rotten to the core. His mere existence is vile. Murong Shui clenched her fists and left in a huff, disregarding her sister's plea and even cursing. Yenner, have you got taken in by him? With everything that's happened here, with so many people dead, you still take his side? I will no longer help you hide it and report everything. Ah! No, Sister Shui. Shangwan Qingyan cried after her and Wu Qingqiu sighed, this is a huge mess, Brother Zhua. What are you going to do? Nothing, just wait and see. Aren't you scared the Sea Bright sect will execute you? They won't even try, moreover. Zhua Fan quirked a smile, this only cements my safety. For now I have 2 blades and soon the 3rd, ha ha ha. Wu Qingqiu was baffled, feeling like Zhua Fan had cast a net that spread over everyone, putting them on edge. Chapter 1036, Mastermind. Chapter 1036, Mastermind. Proofreader, Papatonks. Sister Shui, don't do it. Give him another chance. Shut up. I've given him plenty of chances, which is why so many innocents are now dead. That foul demon has to be put down now, before he brings about an even greater disaster. Sister Shui, it's really not him, but the one under him. Who acted in his stead? Murong Shui and Shengguan Qingyan were fighting while walking for Sea-Bright Sect's main hall. Shengguan Qingyan pleaded while Murong Shui would always throw her reasons aside, flaring in anger, "He is a plague. His end will settle everything. You've been infatuated with him and can't see him for who he is. You even had me go along with this charade. But there's no point talking about this. I shall do the world this favor, for the greater good." She shrugged Shengguan Qingyan's hand off and stormed into the main hall. Shengguan Qingyan was looking erratic as she followed after her. They, however, were left speechless as they came in, no longer saying a word. The mood was tense and heavy. The thick air was so oppressive it made it hard to breathe. There was not a single sound, not even from a random animal. Sect leader Ling Yuntian had a dark look on his face, his usual smile no longer seen. Ouyang Ling Tian, Murong Lai and Exalted Double Dragon and many others were tense too. Before them were 4 elders, stricken with guilt and lowered heads in shame. On the ground were the 2 disciples that worked with Bali Yu in passing the report. They were brought in under suspicion of being spies. Murong Lai looked confused at the heavy mood, no longer thinking of reporting Zhuofan and instead whispering to Murong Lai, brother, what happened? Why? A true disaster." Murong Lai sighed, actually looking mournful. "Shuer, you sensed it too, the 3rd explosion came from the sect barrier." "Yeah, I did." "Did someone get in?" "On the contrary, someone got out. They took the Northern Land's heaven-sealing sword as well." Murong Lai shuddered and his sigh was longer. Murong Shui's eyes widened and cried out, "The heaven-sealing divine sword's gone." "How?" "Yes, it's gone, that's the only reason why the strongest barrier in the lands could break." Murong Lai felt utterly powerless then. His hand flashed and revealed a golden longsword traced by golden flames. "That means we only have the decimating sword as the only weapon against invincible sword. We now have no hope at all." Everyone lowered their heads, feeling the heavy loss. Shengguan Feixiong glanced at the heavy toothpick soaring sword had become with gnashed teeth. Exalted Double Dragons looked at each other in guilt. They might have had a chance against invincible sword now, if they hadn't let Dan Qingshan run off with the vaulting sword. They could only blame themselves for being soft on their disciple. Though no one knew that the disciple did not have it. This issue led to Exalted Double Dragons and Dan Qingshan coming to a huge misunderstanding, courtesy of Zhuofan. "Sect leader, it's our fault we let Frigid Rain Sword King take the sword. Sect leader, we will accept any punishment you'd inflict upon us without remorse." Looking at their dark faces, the 4 Snow Peak elders' guilt only grew, to the point they even gave a deep bow with tears on their faces. "For any damage that our neglect has caused the sect, we deserve nothing less than execution." Ling Yuntian returned the bow and helped them up, not blaming them in the least. "Venerables, you've always held yourself with responsibility and diligence. Everyone in the sect knows this. It's all the thief's fault for using such a loud distraction to hide the truth while bringing false reports. Anyone would have fallen for it in such desperate moments. The more one is loyal to the sect, the easier it is for them to believe such treachery. Venerables, there's no need to blame yourselves. I have looked into these 2 disciples and they're not traitors, ending up controlled with a bewitching demonic art." Exalted He Rant's brow shook. The bewitching art isn't some incredible skill, for strong experts would not usually fall for such guile. And even if it worked, the target would end up dull-minded and easy to spot. To pull off such a trick on 4 peak Genesis experts shows how daring the user was, and skilled. Exalted by Mei sighed, "It's not just daring, but calculative. The skill is minor, easily seen through, yet highly effective in the created circumstance. Repeated confirmation makes it believable. Once they took it as real, they were tricked. Then it was just a matter of pouncing with utmost speed at the right moment to get the elders on the wrong foot and steal the sword." The others nodded and sighed. "I've heard that the 9 Sword Kings are beyond strong, and that includes Frigid Rain Sword King. I just can't believe one woman can be so vile and of such twisted cunningness. She's a true master in strength and mind. Ling Yuntian eased a long breath. Invincible sword has yet to come and one woman sword king had us running around in panic. Then when we face invincible sword, how will we fight back? Right, what will we do? Who says there's anything we can do? Everyone was wrought with worry, looking bleak and downcast at the doomed and imminent future. Only Shangguan Feixiong spoke, "Sect leader Ling, do not be distressed. The thief might be Bali Yuyu, but it might not be her who devised this strategy. From how I see it, the only one among our lands that can come up with such a cunning tactic to control the enemy can only be Sword Star Empire's Bailey Jingwei. He must have planned this before. We have faced him in the central area and he almost destroyed us with his strategies. It was a very close call. He is truly dangerous. Even if it is Bailey Jingwei's plan, can't we do anything about it? Shangguan clan head, how do you intend to soothe my worries? Ha ha ha, I meant to say that she's too far away from the central area and not with Bailey Yutian. Once fighting starts, anything can happen and he's too far to give advice. So for now, our opponent is still just invincible sword. Oh, Shangguan clan head is right. Ling Yuntian nodded and sighed. Although invincible sword is an immense threat to us all, he finds any sort of strategy beneath him and would give us a breather. Ling Yuntian saw the others nod and relax as well, feeling relieved from their talk. Morong Shui stepped in just then, cupping her hands. Sect leader Ling, I have a report. Shangguan Qingyan didn't stop her, shaking her head in anxiety. Miss Morong, why the sudden courtesy? Ling Yuntian had regained his kind smile. Morong Shui spoke heavily. Sect leader Ling, the mastermind behind the theft isn't from the central area, but the imprisoned Qian merchant, Qian Fan. Ling Yuntian looked dumbfounded. What did you say? Shui, what's going on? Just tell us. Morong Lai urged her. Morong Shui began, the leader of the Qian caravan is Steward Qian Fan, but I have met him before in the central area. He's the same one who caused the calamity in the central area, the demon Gu Yifan. Gu Yifan? Shangguan Feixiong reacted instantly, his eyes looking hopeful. Gu Yifan is here, now? Morong Shui nodded. Wherever the foul Gu Yifan goes, disaster is soon to follow. I met him in the northern lands as I was coming here and he also had a strong female guard that matched my brother. He may be in jail, but I have just confirmed that he's behind the devious plan to steal the sword. You can ask Sister Yenner if you don't believe me. She was there. And she knew he was here long before I did. Yenner, is what Shui said true? Shangguan Feixiong stared at his daughter. Shangguan Qingyan's face shook and relented a nod. Foolish girl, why haven't you said anything? You know I've been trying to find him all this time. Shangguan Feixiong ignored everything and even forgot to salute the rest as he stormed outside, roaring, Gu Yifan, you bastard. What did you do to my sword? Fix it this instant. Where is the Sea Bright sect's jail again? Chapter 1037, You Can't Touch Me. Chapter 1037, You Can't Touch Me. Proofreader, Papatonks. Bam! In the gloomy prison, Shangguan Feixiong was holding a scarlet sword, bursting right in and looking around with bloodshot eyes like someone who was possessed. Those hungry eyes took moments to find his quarry, setting his eyes on Zhuo Fan. What did I say? The first to show up will be Shangguan clan head. You lost, Brother Wu. Smirking, Zhuo Fan hardly cared being the target of such an intense gaze and spoke to Wu Qingqiu, per our bet, you now owe me a favor. Wu Qingqiu shrugged, as long as it doesn't go against my morals, I'll do it, Brother Zhuo. Bam! Shangguan Feixiong arrived before the two in one mighty leap, the stone floor cracking under him. Curse you, Gu Yifan. You might have the time of your life, but you almost got me killed. Shangguan clan head, why do you say that? Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow. Shangguan Feixiong's face twitched, showing his scarlet sword and accusing Zhuo Fan, damn punk, stop playing around. You dare ask me that? It's I who should be asking what the hell is this? What is what? Isn't that your clan's soaring sword? It's looking mighty polished. Can it? Shangguan Feixiong was outraged, spitting as he raged, but the drops jumped back when met with the barrier, landing on his own face. It even got into his eyes. Zhuo Fan waved his hand. Shangguan clan head, why so excited? We even worked together. Screw your cooperation. He was about to rave again, but stopped before he sprayed himself again, and swallowed. Wu Qingqiu sighed at the side, admiring Zhuo Fan. Who said that the mighty have fallen? Brother Zhuo has his cultivation sealed, in prison, yet still talks with Eastern Land's best clan head like he has the advantage. It actually looks like this big boss from Eastern Lands has his hands tied by a junior, ha ha ha. Crossing his hands, Wu Qingqiu enjoyed the show. Zhuo Fan was equally calm, considerate as he pointed, Shangguan clan head, I am now a prisoner of Sea Bright sect. My safety is guaranteed with the jail barrier in place. No matter what you try to do, it won't work. If you really want to punch me, then just like I said to Miss Morong, you'll have to go ask sect leader Ling. Or maybe you could break it yourself. With your strength, that should be doable. Though that would be mighty rude of you before getting approval. That's not how the clan head of the best clan in Eastern Lands acts. Ugh, Gu Yifan, are you a prisoner or a guest? The barrier is clearly keeping you here, so why are you talking like it's protecting you instead, like you're the lord here? What gives you the confidence? Sensing the mockery in Zhuo Fan's smile, Shangguan Feixiong's face twitched hard. Zhuo Fan grasped at the air and his eyes shone, no matter where I am, with all under my control, I am the lord. Just like now. You see me as a prisoner here, in my cell, but the way I see it, it is Shangguan clan head that is the one imprisoned. I can do whatever I want here, even tend to my wife. But Shangguan clan head can't beat me, nor take it out on me, all because of this flimsy barrier. Ha ha ha, I only have a few of words for you, you can't touch me. Who do you think among us is the real prisoner? Zhuo Fan cocked an eyebrow, then walked to Chaoer looking after Chu Qingcheng. Chaoer, comb her hair. You're much better at it than me. It's the first time doing it for both of us, so why are you so good at it? Because we're girls. That's talent. Sort of. Shangguan Feixiong's mouth twitched as Zhuo Fan did whatever. Then his words sunk in. The kid is right, I'm more tied down on the outside. Who is the one locked anyway? A prisoner outside, one that can't even beat a kid, while the one inside's so carefree and infuriating to no end. Just what is up with this world? Shangguan Feixiong felt stunned, now realizing that after meeting this brat, he was never in control, but the one being controlled. He didn't even have a way to vent his anger. He had to take his anger on himself, kicking himself while at it. Giving it some thought, Shangguan Feixiong chose to calm down as much as he could, since anger didn't help him get his divine sword back. He took a deep breath and said, Gu Yifan, don't play dumb with me. You know exactly why I was angry. Soaring sword is the treasure of Eastern Lands. We made a deal that we would help you if you returned the sword. Yes, and I did give it to you. Isn't it right there in your hand? What you brought was a piece of scrap. Shangguan Feixiong shouted, why did you seal the sword spirit? I was planning to use it to fight Invincible Sword. Now I'll end up dead without even putting up a fight. How isn't this your fault? Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow and sneered, you'd be doomed even with the help of the soaring sword. Since there's no use of you going, I just saved your life. You should thank me. Screw thanking you. You ruined soaring sword. How is that fair? Gnashing his teeth, Shangguan Feixiong flicked the sword and demanded, you have to unseal it or else. Bam! This time it felt like a mob was barging in here as all kinds of experts rushed inside the jail. Zhuo Fan regarded everyone, then turned to Shangguan Feixiong with a chuckle, Shangguan clan head, to be honest, I did seal the sword spirit to take the soaring sword from Shangguan Feiyan. I was in such a hurry when I left that I forgot to unseal it. It's my oversight, so after all this time trying and failing to unseal it yourself, it's only right that I should do it, to complete our agreement back then. That's right. I didn't mean anything else by it either. I can understand that you were rash and needed to save your son, but as long as you unseal it now, I will forget everything. We are an upright clan that keeps their word. Shangguan Feixiong grinned in delight. He was only after unsealing the divine sword. So there was no reason to explode in anger if he got his wish. Zhuo Fan's words helped soothe his rage. But then Zhuo Fan shifted the subject with a sinister smile. Things have changed now. If you had come by yesterday to unseal it, I would have done it without hesitation. Now, I'm afraid it'll have to wait. What does that mean? Why wait? Shangguan Feixiong cried out. Zhuo Fan curled his lips, sweeping his eyes over the people walking down, because I'm a weak lamb with 3 blades on me. Since you're my first blade, I can't just give you up so soon, now can I? Shangguan Feixiong gave him a hard look, then turned to the others with a nod. Shangguan Feixiong sighed, knowing his hopes were dashed. Ling Yintian's group now approached Zhuo Fan, with exalted double dragons looking shocked to the core. It was beyond comprehension how the best disciple in Western lands that had perished 5 years ago would end up here, and as their enemy. They grimaced, even as Zhuo Fan remained calm and had no issue facing them. Qian Fan, Steward Qian Fan, Gu Yifan, Grandmaster Gu, and best disciple in Western lands, Zhuo Fan, right? Looking at Zhuo Fan's calm visage, Ling Yuntian smiled. Sir is known by all of these. Which would be more appropriate to address you? Zhuo Fan shrugged. Feel free to call me anything, sect leader Ling. Though I've grown attached to Zhuo Fan. Alright, Sir Zhuo. Ling Yuntian nodded. Could Sir Zhuo tell us in detail why in your capacity as Western lands disciple you haven't returned to Western lands, having recovered, and instead come to Northern lands? Zhuo Fan turned serious, his eyes flashing. I came to these lands, and to your sect, for one thing, the North Sea demon. What? Ling Yuntian and Ouyang Lingtian gasped in shock. What do you want with that monster? Chapter 1038, 3 Blades. Chapter 1038, 3 Blades. Proofreader, Papatonks. Zhuo Fan revealed a vague smile as he refused to answer. It doesn't concern you, so you shouldn't ask. Yes, we don't care about your personal matters, and we can't get involved with Sea Demon either. Ling Yuntian sighed, then his eyes flashed and glared. Then what has Sir to say about Heaven's sealing sword getting stolen and our barrier destroyed? Did you do this? Yes. Why? Ling Yuntian stared at him hard and shouted, Heaven's sealing sword is the treasure of my sect, and losing it will lead to countless losses. Sir is from Western lands, and all 4 lands suffer the same problem. Also, we each mind our own problems, so why would you then do something so grave and lead to a hopeless fate? Because he is the herald of calamity, cold and cruel to anyone else's pain or life. Murong Shui shouted in anger, the Central Area's case is the strongest evidence. So many lives were lost at his hand, yet he holds no remorse. Sect leader Ling, he cannot be allowed to live. For the good of the world, he has to be removed. Or disaster will only keep appearing. The others looked at each other, but their eyes were thoughtful, each with their own idea. Bu Xingyun, who has seen Zhuo Fan for who he is, jumped right in. Miss Murong can't be more right. He has to die. Sect leader Ling, he admits to stealing the sword and should be put down as an example. Sect leader Bu, I have told you many times already. You are not in the Sun Sea sect. This isn't your place to make decisions. Ling Yuntian huffed and turned to Zhuo Fan. Sir, you have yet to answer. Zhuo Fan said, Sect leader Ling is a sharp man. Is there a need to ask? I said I wanted to go to the North Sea, but the Sea Bright sect cut off the path to it. The only way to get there is by breaking the barrier. Just for that you had the Heaven's sealing sword stolen? Just? Eyeing Ouyang Lingtian, Zhuo Fan chuckled. It might look like a flimsy reason, but it's crucial to me. To go to the North Sea, I stole Heaven's sealing sword, I ruined your barrier, and I would have certainly destroyed your sect or the 5 lands if I had to. Anyway, those that stop me will be crushed. You're a certifiable lunatic. Just for that you put all of the northern lands at risk? Ouyang Ling Tian roared, you could have said you wanted to go to the North Sea and we'd have let you. It's easy to have it done. Why did you insist on taking the sword and inflicting such damage? Zhuo Fan glanced at him with mockery. Senior Ouyang, would you have really let me if I asked? Humph, you're too simple. If it would have been that easy, why would the Sea Bright sect be established on the shores of the North Sea, monopolizing its resources? Ouyang Ling Tian shook at the response. Also, you might call yourself upright and righteous, but none here is any nobler. Zhuo Fan jeered, now that's such a big issue, you're saying opening access to the sea is nothing, that a simple request would have been enough. But if the sword had never been taken, would you have indulged a mere merchant's plea? The answer is obvious. How else would you have dominated the sea's exploitation? With that reason, the result is just as flat. Because you had the North Sea locked, I had no choice but to blow this simple matter as going to sea out of proportions. Because you stopped me, I had to move you out of the way first to continue my path. If you want to blame someone, don't blame my extreme methods, but your greed in stopping everyone else. Ling Yintian's lips shook and relented a nod. Yes, with Sir Zhuo being a merchant, your approval would have likely been rejected. If I were in Sir Zhuo's place, I would have stolen the sword as well. Sect leader Ling, how can you say that? Just for going to see the entire northern land's population is at risk. How can they compare? Morong Shui's glare never subsided. Just for himself, he spits in the face of virtue and good. His heart is twisted but also strong. He has to be put down. The others nodded this time, but then shook their heads soon after. Zhuo Fan grinned, uncaring for his safety, even taking time to mock her. Miss Morong truly is a warrior of justice. A shame the world isn't filled with people like Miss, dead set on purging evil. Some don't wish for my death. I fear your wish will have to go unanswered. Humph, be smug all you like. I'm sure sect leader Ling will uphold his principles and knows not to show any mercy against fiends like you. Morong Shui glared in hatred, then cupped her hands in hope. Sect leader Ling. That's enough, Miss Morong. You don't have to say it. I have made up my mind. Morong Shui perked up, taking it as a sign that Ling Yuntian took her side and was about to bring Zhuo Fan to justice. Sir Zhuo, will your guard return? Zhuo Fan nodded with a smile. Of course, you saw it yourself, she came to break me out, but I needed to tend to my wife so I didn't leave. She'll be back though, in a few days to go to sea. Good, then we'll wait till then. When she comes, I will personally escort you all out to sea. Ling Yuntian hesitated as he cupped his hands, then left. Ouyang Ling Tian and the people of the Sea Bright sect understood and left as well. Morong Shui was left dumbfounded, still as a statue. What is this? Why is he freed? He killed so many of your Genesis stage experts and stole your sword, but you're just going to move past it and even escort him to sea. What is going on here? Morong Shui was utterly confused, while the rest knew why this happened. Shengwan Feixiong had just gone through a verbal clash with Zhuo Fan, and Zhuo Fan was in no rush to unseal Eastern Land's sword. But that didn't stop him from feeling so down. He asked, pointing at the soaring sword, Kid, say when. I'll wait. Wait for me before the sea. Alright, but you better not forget this again. Who knows how many years it will take for us to meet again. Shengwan Feixiong sighed and left. Exalted Double Dragons hesitated before saying, Zhuo Fan, we're happy you're alive. We wanted to look into what happened to you. I understand Exalted's difficulty, and Master had settled everything in my stead. I am instead very grateful to you for looking after Chu Qingqing all these years. I have yet to step into Double Dragon Manor for even one day, but I can be considered one of you still. You can put your mind at ease, Exalted, I will always be thankful to Double Dragon Manor and Western Lands. Zhuo Fan spoke over them. Exalted Double Dragons nodded in relief. They feared Zhuo Fan would have hated them for not dealing with the sects back then and letting Chu Qingqing turn like this. With a devious otherworldly genius around and a monster watching them from shadows, the two never felt safe. Now though, hearing Zhuo Fan's gratitude, they finally found Zen. After a couple more words, they too left. Now there was only Wu Qingqiu, Shengwan Qingyan, Murong Shui and Murong Lai. Murong Shui was overcome by confusion. Brother, what is this? Why has sect leader Ling shown such leniency to this demon after all the hurt he's caused? Shui, sect leader Ling is in charge of the sect and needs to think of everyone. Murong Lai took a deep breath. Murong Shui said, still baffled, if sect leader Ling is acting in everyone's interests, then he should know how much of a disaster he is. He can't be left alive. Now that he's set free, many more people will get hurt. Yes, this demon ought to be snuffed. If I live, more would die. Zhuo Fan patronized, Miss Murong is so focused she saw me for what I am, a true demon that spreads pain and suffering. While Miss Murong wants to see me dead, I have too many demon progeny around. I could stand before you and present my neck yet you still wouldn't be able to touch a hair on it, ha ha ha. What are you saying? For the Technobabble impaired, I am a demon reaping countless souls, but Ling Yuntian, Ouyang Ling Tian and even exalted double dragons are my children. They may deny it, but they know in their heart that they have to keep this true demon alive. Murong Shui winced. Zhuo Fan continued regardless of her feelings, you think you're the only bright enough to see me for the danger I am? They all know. The minute I walk out will be sure to cause more suffering somewhere. Alas, their hands are tied. For I have on me 3 whimsical blades, flying away the minute my soul leaves my body. They'll never see them again. That's why they can't touch me. 3 blades? First is the Shengwan clan's soaring sword. If I die, soaring sword remains sealed. It translates into the fall of the Shengwan clan, and with northern lands and eastern lands trapped, the other lands would fall as well. For the second blade, Heaven Sealing Sword, is the same with Soaring Sword. The third blade, Devil Mountain. Double Dragon Manor had been scared witless 5 years ago when Devil Mountain took the stage and would never do anything to a Devil Mountain disciple, lest Devil Mountain would burn whole of western lands in anger. Zhuo Fan's eyes flashed, they don't care about the casualties, only about getting the Heaven Sealing Sword and unsealing the Soaring Sword. This affects their future. The constant cries of the masses fall on their deafened ears as all of their focus is set on the land's unification. They only care about losing their status and sects, not for the countless poor souls in pain and dying. That's why I said reporting me will only make it worse for you. Because you said too much, they won't touch me. I am now a prisoner, but I control their fates. It is not I who is locked away here now, but you, righteous warrior, obsessed with killing me. Bam! The 4 Snow Peak elders suddenly appeared with grave faces. Sect leader Ling has ordered us to watch over Zhuo Fan and the others. Chapter 1039, Sword Stars Oppression. Chapter 1039, Sword Stars Oppression. Proofreader, Papatonks. Murong Shui shuddered as she watched the 4 old men with shaken looks. Sect leader Ling sent the venerables to protect a divine sword thief? How does that make sense? Are they afraid that his henchwoman will be back to break them out? Ha ha ha, Miss Murong, you know already. I'd have walked ages ago if I wanted to. Why would I need to stay here and even have these coots watching over me? Zhuo Fan sneered, moreover, Ling Yuntian knows I want to go out to sea and won't leave even if I can of my own free will. Setting up such a strong guard for someone like that hardly makes any sense. Or are you still scared I'd escape despite wanting to be here? Murong Shui's eyes shook and she gritted her teeth. Murong Lai sighed and pulled her hand. Shui, let's go. Sect leader Ling said it's for the greater good. How is that so? Murong Shui stared at the 4 elders. Seniors, I just wish to know, what is sect leader Ling's real reason for sending you to watch over a prisoner that doesn't want to escape? The 4 Snow Peak elders muttered to themselves, before High Venerable replied, Miss Murong is sharp, sect leader did send us to watch him. He might not want to leave now, but what about later? With that woman's incredible strength, only the 4 of us could stop her from breaking in again. As for the other reason, High Venerable hesitated. What other reason? Murong Shui knew it but still insisted on hearing it. The 4 Snow Peak elders lowered their heads, giving Zhuo Fan the opportunity to condescend. Miss Murong, you're being hard on seniors. Do you really want to tear the last shred of cordiality? Ha ha ha, I bet you know already. The seniors are here to guard me, as in protect me, lest a certain someone gets the bright idea in the heat of the moment and kills someone of my immense value, making the 2 divine swords to be lost and damning the 4 lands. Especially when that certain someone has such an incredible brother. One will need extra protection, no? Murong Shui glared at him as her lips shook, then she turned to the 4 silent venerables. Their silence said it all. With a huff, she stormed out in indignation and fury. Murong Lai looked at them once and shook his head as he followed her. Only the 4 elders, Zhuo Fan's team, Shangguan Qingyan and Wu Qingqiu remained. I've never seen Sister Shui so overcome with anger. Shangguan Qingyan sighed, feeling sad. Wu Qingqiu nodded, she believed she was ridding the world of evil, for the common good, but the people on the same path as hers turned their backs, actually being cautious around her. It might not be just as simple as anger for Miss Murong, but disillusioned. She got here on the firm belief that good triumphs over evil, only to find that she is the only one willing to face a demon like me. Getting disappointed with reality is a given, ha ha ha, Zhuo Fan laughed in mockery. Shangguan Qingyan rolled her eyes and blamed him, it was all going fine so far, so why did you have to antagonize Sister Shui further? I didn't do anything, she chose to walk this lone path herself. Zhuo Fan spoke, humanity is filled with endless desires. And where there's desire, there's evil. Few in this world have a true righteous and benevolent heart, while the great majority who walk this path could never come to free themselves of their demons. She wants to go further on the path of purging demons and she must bear the solitude and betrayal. Only by persevering through this can she reach the height of righteousness. But by being too rigid, one breaks easily. In this world, righteous cultivators have it hard to achieve their path. Either follow the crowd and ruin their paths, neither demonic nor righteous, always a stranger wherever they went, or die at the hands of others in this messed up world. But righteousness has a natural shortcut over the demonic path, having grown above the mortal coil and the worldly affairs. Shunning self-indulgence and feeling for the world's energy is the easiest way to achieve it. That's why demonic cultivators enter the world and understand it, while righteous cultivators enter the world and overcome it. Rise from the mire unstained, cleanse oneself in clear water without being tainted. Thus Brother Wu, you're also a righteous cultivator, very much invested in it. Which is why, as a friend, I advise you to see the world in all its colors, then return to cultivate in seclusion. The secular world is too chaotic for a true righteous man to walk the path. Wu Qingqiu pondered and cupped his hands, thank you, Brother Zhuo, for your guidance. We've also been guided. The 4 Snow Peak elders nodded and bowed before Zhuo Fan in admiration and sincerity. Sir is a demonic cultivator, yet your wisdom transcends it. We are grateful for your words. As the sect is now in danger, we are too preoccupied to mule them. We shall delve into these words once this problem passes and, like Sir said, not let the world impede us. Zhuo Fan rolled his eyes, I'm talking to my brother here, not you. Tell that to someone who cares, humph. The 4 sat before the cell with a smile, like experts that have surpassed the world. Wu Qingqiu and Shangguan Qingyan chuckled, looking at Zhuo Fan with respect. Zhuo Fan hadn't said it to them particularly, but the words of wisdom were immensely valuable, which is why the elders would lower their pride and bow to him. Zhuo Fan was a true friend, to say those words to him. While the people in the dungeon were struck with inspiration, the outside people still indulged in their worries and affairs. Sect leader Ling, do you really believe he'll return the sword? Bu Xingyan was panicking, whining in Ling Yintian's ear, even if he does give it back, you're just going to ignore all the deaths that have happened in the sect? Even if you don't kill him, you need to make an example out of him. We need to do right by those dead elders. See, Bright's sect needs to mind its name. Giving him a frustrated look, Ling Yuntian sighed, Sect leader Bu, now I know why Sun Ci's sect would incite Frigid Rain Sword King to destroy it. The problem doesn't stop with your people. Sect leader Ling, what are you implying? Bu Xingyan looked lost, that sneaky punk is clearly behind the disaster of Sun Ci's sect. What do I have to do? Ling Yuntian cut him off with a wave, as sect ruler, we need to have perspective. Zhua Fan is very cunning and an expert in passing the blame. You saw it too. We went to him and he didn't deny anything, always finding an explanation, always having an answer. But the thing we wanted most, we didn't get. The soaring sword remains sealed, the heaven-sealing sword is still gone and he still has leverage on us. What do you suggest, torture him for them? He made his move, so what's there to force? To settle the score for the dead? Haha, he has 2 cards of ours and we have reached an agreement now. They will soon be back in our hands. Doing this petty thing to ruin any chance of getting the divine swords, the central area would mow us down. Who will take the blame then, sect leader Bu? Ugh! Bu Xingyan choked. Ling Yuntian shook his head and sighed, Zhua Fan's speech balanced demand and compromise, giving us no chance to gain advantage, and letting him control the negotiation. He had taken everything into account before it even began. He had his guard flee with the heaven-sealing sword before we could take it back. All the power we have can't help change this fact. He may be in jail, but looking at it in perspective, we're the ones having our strings pulled in his hands. Moreover, Ling Yuntian turned to Shengguan clan and exalted double dragons with a sharp glint. He is very close to these 2 lands people, implicating many and affecting their interests. They'll never agree to us laying a finger on him. Not that we intended to either, and ruin our chances of getting heaven-sealing sword back. Thus, of the 4 lands, 3 have reached a silent agreement. Only Southern Lands is against it. That Morong Shui has such a stubborn temper, but alas, all alone. From the very start, even with his cultivation sealed, we, the strong majority, couldn't touch a hair on him despite having him surrounded. He is confident in his position. Bu Xingyan's heart sank and a chill went through him, that's terrifying. He gives nothing away while having every one of us tied. Yeah, Western Lands has gone and got themselves a man like no other. But now he isn't part of Western Lands anymore. Looking at exalted double dragons, Ling Yuntian frowned and sighed. Morong Shui stormed out of the dungeon and stomped away in anger. Ling Yuntian watched her go. Morong Lai followed after her, but sect leader Ling went to stop him. He did not mind a girl's temper, but Morong Lai's dissatisfaction had to be resolved, for the good of the alliance. Ling Yuntian bowed and looked apologetic, Morong clan head, forgive me. Heaven's sealing sword is too important to us and have lost decorum. I know, sect leader Ling. I understand my sister's temper the most. Sect leader Ling did what you had to. Morong Lai nodded calmly. Ling Yuntian eased a smile, Morong clan head, I'm relieved to know you are a man of principle. I'll wait for Miss Morong to calm down then apologize to her and make it right. Report. A disciple rushed over in panic, scrambling to give a jade slip to Ling Yuntian, sect leader, there's an urgent report from the front lines. The army of the Sword Star Empire led by dragon-cleaving Sword King Dan Qingshen is advanced on northern lands. What? Everyone was stunned at this grave news. Sword Star Empire's oppression had begun at last. Chapter 1040, Bloodthirst. Chapter 1040, Bloodthirst. Proofreader, Papatonks. So little, frigid rain. In a pitch-black forest, beneath the black clouds, Invincible's sword was sitting cross-legged on a rock with his eyes closed. Before him was the most familiar person, on their knees and presenting an icy sword with utmost respect. Bali Yu had returned to the Empire's camp the minute she stole the sword, to give Heaven-sealing sword to her patriarch. Bailey Yutian gave her a sharp look, grinning and gesturing for the divine sword to shoot in his hand. Ha ha ha, yes, you've done great this time, you brought back Heaven-sealing sword. See, Bright Sect's barrier will be nothing but paper now. I can blow at them and they'd be crushed. Your feat is remarkable, ha ha ha. Thank you, Patriarch, for your care. I am grateful. Bali Yu cupped her hands, then hesitated. Patriarch can see that my success is due to Zhuofan's cunning plan. He deserves credit for my feat, but he is now imprisoned and cannot bask in Patriarch's blessing. Would it be possible to save him, Patriarch? Waving the sword around to get a feel of it, Bailey Yutian paused and his mood fell. Zhuofan, is it that Qian Fan pretender? A Devil Mountain disciple that threatened me and 5 Sword Kings with our lives got himself caught by some nobodies in the Sea Bright sect? Humph, he's just a joke after all. Patriarch, please, I saw that even in the few times he moved, he's at a soul harmony stage cultivator at least. It's not amazing, but he has guile, though he loves prancing. Bali Yu bowed again, pleading, with Sea Bright sect having caught him and I stealing the divine sword, they are sure to take it out on him. I don't know how long he'll last. I just hope Patriarch will lend a hand in teaching Sea Bright sect a harsh lesson. Show Patriarch's might and generosity by nurturing him. By saving his life it will be 2 birds with 1 stone. He would be in immense gratitude and would swear his life to Patriarch. Bailey Yutian raised an eyebrow and glared at her. Are you telling me what to do? Never. Bali Yu shuddered and crawled on the ground. Bailey Yutian mocked, I had you go with him to see through his skills and the limits of Devil Mountain. Now Devil Mountain no longer seems as insurmountable as before. The kid is so weak, of no importance. But Patriarch. Silence. Bailey Yutian roared at her interjection. His eyes were sharp. Bailey Yu, you're only breaking more rules with your actions. Has it been fun these last few days? You dare argue with me? The only reason I have ignored your repeated disregard is because you brought Heaven-sealing sword. Now leave. Bailey Yu hesitated, but still pushed on. Patriarch, he may be weak, but just as shrewd as the Prime Minister. He would be a great help to you, Patriarch. The gain of this sword is all due to him. I only ask that Patriarch save his life and inspire him with your favor. Bam! A huge force struck Bali Yu and sent her flying through dozens of trees. She landed hard and coughed blood from the impact. But her eyes no longer had anger in them, but stubbornness. Bali Yu, I told you to be quiet, but you just won't listen. This is what you get for defying me. Bailey Yutian showed his power, his icy bloodthirst. Bali Yu shuddered, her heart tensed. Whoosh! Thunder Sword King flashed between them just then. Noticing the situation and Bali Yu, the rough man could glean on what happened. He bowed to Bailey Yutian and presented a jade slip. Patriarch, Prime Minister sent word. We can start in 10 days. With oppression from all sides, the 4 lands would crumble soon. I know. Bailey Yutian took the jade slip and placed it in his ring after reading it. He then left, though his icy voice still echoed, 10,000 lashes. Make her remember her place. Bali Yu bowed and walked to Bailey Yu and helped her up. Just what happened? Patriarch should be thrilled you brought him Heaven-sealing sword, so why? I asked Patriarch to save the kid, but Patriarch refused. Wiping her bloody lips, Bailey Yu sighed, I thought Patriarch would agree seeing the Heaven-sealing sword in my hand, but... Bailey Yu complained, why even bother? Patriarch only wanted to know his limits, and had no other intentions for him. Patriarch had said these days the kid is sly and should be removed if there's a chance. He was waiting on your return before making a decision. With the kid caught, then Patriarch has no fear of Devil Mountain. It's good enough he doesn't kill the kid himself. Why then would you beg him to go? Patriarch wants to kill him. Why? Bali Yu jerked with a start. He's no sword king or cultivator in the Genesis stage, but he has amazing talent and bravery. His future is limitless, so why is Patriarch? Bailey Yulei sighed. Patriarch is the strongest man. While he laments how lonely it is at the top, does he really want to be defeated? Humph, you'd best not take his fondness of outsiders, like Dan Qingshen and Shengguan Feiyun, seriously. Patriarch only saw that they posed no threat to him. While the kid, while you were away, had shaken him up with mere words. The attitude and aura almost had Patriarch soil himself. Even we fell for it. That's why Patriarch was respectful to him, but also on guard. Now, he learned it was nothing more than a ruse, only giving him more reasons to kill the kid. He's bluffing now, but his potential is undoubtedly real and could become a threat. Patriarch isn't about to overlook him. And you say he's skilled in mind games and arts, which makes him that much terrifying. Patriarch looks down on sword kings because they can never reach him, not even together. Bailey Jingwei is also ignored, with his sharp mind, because smarts hold no power over true strength. He can kill him whenever. But by being skilled in both aspects, one could rule the world. It would ruin Patriarch's aspirations. The more you begged for the kid, the more his fate was sealed. Patriarch must kill him. Then what do we do? Bali Yu shook, her eyes trembling and her fists clenched. Bailey Yulei frowned. There's something wrong about you ever since you returned. Why do you care so much about his fate? You've always kept to yourself so far and have killed scores of experts these centuries without ever flinching. Why then just a few months with that kid had you go against Patriarch for him? Brother Yulei, I don't want to be lonely. Bali Yu's lower lip quivered, pleading, Brother Yulei, I can't thank you enough for all you've done for me. Now that Patriarch wants to kill him, could you do something to save him? He's sure to be immensely grateful. Bali Yu even kneeled. Pa! Bailey Yulei clutched her arm and took a deep breath. You're asking the impossible. Nothing can stop Patriarch from killing someone. Brother Yulei, I beg you. Bali Yu teared up, her face most earnest in her pleas. Bailey Yulei sighed, get up for now and let me exact your punishment. Just give me time to think about it. Brother Yulei, thank you so much for your help. Bali Yu brightened and smiled regardless of her wounds. Bailey Yulei had a wry smile. You've really changed. It's good you learned to smile. We're not abandoning Western lands. Don't listen to sect leader Boo. Ling Yuntian bowed in apology. Exalted He Ran bowed back, looking guilty. Sect leader Ling, I am not so petty. We just can't ignore our home's plight. We can't help Northern lands in this, I'm sorry. Once Western lands is safe again, we'll be rushing to help Northern lands. The four lands are of one body, helping each other in need. Ling Yuntian was very courteous. Western lands is in danger and you should by all right go protect them. Chapter 1042, Beseech the Devil. Chapter 1042, Beseech the Devil. Proofreader, Papatonks. All eyes shot in his direction then agreed after a moment of reflection. They all had first-hand experience of Zhuofan's twisted and insidious mind. The exalted double dragons could be said to take the cake. If there was a prize involved, Zhuofan's skill is unquestionable. He was well known in Western lands back then, even laying the foundation of today's Luo alliance. It's a good thing we can consult him on the four lands plight, and we might even make a comeback. Then we should forget our status and seek his counsel. You can't. Ling Yuntian agreed after a pause, with Morong Shui glaring at them in cloying righteous anger. He's an abomination, a herald of calamity. By no means can we hand over command of countless lives to him so he can do what he pleases. It will lead to unspeakable horrors. Ling Yuntian frowned and spoke solemnly. Does Miss Morong have a better idea for our current crisis? Morong Shui could find no words. Ling Yuntian sighed. Miss Morong, forgive an old man's crude words, but what man would care if the water is good or not when thirst has him in a tight grip? As the urgent matters stand, we need someone that can help us overcome this situation. We're at a point when any idea, even rotten, would be better than nothing, regardless of consequences. Miss Morong, we're open to any ideas you might have. But if you have none, I hope Miss won't be so adamant to refuse. Thank you. Ling Yuntian bowed with a cold face, then addressed the rest. Let's go see what solution can the Western Land's best disciple provide. He led the way to the sect dungeon, his eyes gleaming with hope. Morong Shui was the only one left behind in defiance still. Shui, the bigger picture takes precedence. Stop only thinking of your biased principles. Morong Lai patted her shoulder with a sigh. Morong Shui was indignant. I'm not biased. The guy's mind is warped. Any plan will be twisted, uncaring for the dangers it might bright, or the damage. Just why does sect leader Ling insist on beseeching a devil? In despair, man will take anything, be it from God or a devil. Morong Lai sighed, patted her head and followed after them. Their last hope was Zhuo Fan, who beat Bailey Jingwei at his own game. They gave little thought to the indignity and cruelty such a plan might involve. Inside his cell, Zhuo Fan was enjoying his rare moment of bliss. He was meticulous in combing the white hair of his wife, flowing before him like a silver waterfall. Zhuo Fan smiled, filled with tenderness for the woman. He prompted Xiao for an answer. What do you think of your dad's combing this time? Better. Xiao giggled with a thumbs up. Zhuo Fan nodded and said, of course, after 3 days of combing, I've got the hang of it, though even combing forever feels short. I just hope to give your mom the best combing I can before leaving. I wouldn't want to leave in regret. Dad, we'll be getting back from the North Sea safely, don't worry. Xiao noticed his worry and soothed him. Zhuo Fan said, who can tell for certain? It's best to plan ahead. It's because of doing things without a plan last time that I hurt your mom leaving like that. I will think it through now and go without regret. So that if I don't return, I'll leave your mom cared for. Zhuo Fan's eyes moistened as he looked at Chu Qingcheng. Xiao shook her head, falling silent. You're a true man, sir. I have seen many demonic cultivators, men that have gone far on the demonic path, betrayers and savages, but none like sir, so intoxicated with love, outdoing many great righteous cultivators too. The 4 Snow Peak elders were touched by his display of affection and sighed, you look nothing like a demonic cultivator. When we heard of your past exploits then see you now, it's like you're a different person. Has Sir relinquished the demonic path or have you reached a stage beyond our scope? We are simply bemused. Zhuo Fan sighed, who can say? Emotion is the bane of the demonic path, but in the words of my masters, a checkpoint in the demonic path. So I plunge in head-on, deeper and deeper. Even I have yet to realize just how far gone I am. I may just be walking a new demonic path. Though I've only passed the start of it, with no end in sight. Or maybe I've strayed from the path without even knowing it. Chapter 1043, Four Lands Grand Marshal. Chapter 1043, Four Lands Grand Marshal. Proofreader, Papatonks. Right, young Master Zhuo, Central Area's army. Ling Yuntian rushed to bow as he spoke. Zhuo Fan dismissed him with a wave, there's no need of that, I already know. Central Area's army is not only attacking northern lands, but the other 3 lands, a war on all fronts and with no hope in sight. They all shook and stood there in stunned silence as they stared at Zhuo Fan. Sir has such a cunning mind. Ling Yintian's eye twitched, shaken awake, then bowed again. We've only got word of these attacks, yet Sir knows without even looking. Yes, it's as Sir said, Dragon-Cleaving Sword King is leading the attack on northern lands, while the other lands each have a Sword King taking charge of those large armies as well. We can't do anything and can't think of what to do, just come ask for Sir's advice. Zhuo Fan smirked. It's quite simple, really, nothing to it. Simple? Everyone twitched, their eyes glazed over in confusion. With this grave danger from being attacked on 4 fronts, Sir Zhuo thinks it's nothing? Is that just boasting, or does he have some godlike strategy to help us out of this? Everyone was looking incredulous and stunned. He can't be playing with us, can he? Exalted He Ran got caught off guard as well by his boasting. Zhuo Fan, you're the pride of Western lands. We all know of your skills, but you can't look at this with such disregard. You need to be serious. Bailey Jingwei himself came up with this plan, the best mind in the central area. There is no room for errors. You need to think things through and come up with a complete response. How to deploy troops, how to repel the enemy, to provide support, to bait the enemy, to charge, all of these need thorough thinking. You are dealing with the most famous mind, and any mistake. Exalted He Ran, you're just enumerating military tactics, but I'm not too familiar with these. If you're after victory, you're welcome to see Luo Yunhai. He's much better than me. Zhuo Fan cut him off with a smirk. You know him as Luo clan head, having grown in the military and of deeper knowledge of wars than myself. Ugh! Exalted He Ran was stumped. I mean, Zhuo Fan, don't joke around. Luo Yunhai is a fine man, yes, but if he could fight the shrewd Bailey Jingwei, then the latter wouldn't have put us in such a predicament by going to war on 4 fronts. So when not even an unbeatable general can handle him, this shows that military tactics have no place here. Zhuo Fan smiled. Exalted He Ran, you're already off the minute you thought about scoring victory. This isn't a matter of fighting. They all flinched in bewilderment, with Ling Yuntian cupping his hands. Sir Zhuo, if this is not war, what then? Who is Bailey Jingwei? Central Area's Sword Star Empire Prime Minister. There you have it. Zhuo Fan cocked an eyebrow. He's no commander or general, but a prime minister. Is he even thinking about fighting you? He's a politician, doing his very best with leveraging. Morong Lai's brow shook and muttered, how is a politician any different from a commander, now that he directs the Central Area armies? He's far greedier. Zhuo Fan replied, there's no guile without trade, but there's none more cunning than a politician. A commander is always focused on gaining ground, on winning one battle at a time. While a politician is only thinking of fattening his pockets with every action while ignoring the details. He wages war with 4 lands, but does he really want to fight them all? His true purpose is to scatter you. No matter which land you choose to defend, the other 3 will be sour, making it easier for them to get the lands. It's a far more effective plan than fighting for every inch of land. In other words, it's a mind game, of no consequence, how the 4 wars end, while your changing mindset is. They all bobbed their heads, seeing reason. Ling Yuntian bowed again in respect. We've thought of this as well, but with Sir's analysis, we came to see how insidious it is. But understanding is one thing, while dealing with it is another. We ask for Sir's advice. Couldn't be easier. If Bailey Jingwei was a nice guy, I'd be stumped as well. However, a guy enacting such a sneaky ploy has no place among the righteous. I can read him like an open book. When he had Bailey Yutian go to northern lands with 5 sword kings, I had it all figured out. Neither of us are nice guys. Only a man of our devious minds can understand the other, he. Zhuo Fan had a cryptic smile and the other smiled in joy, eager to know what his counter was. Zhuo Fan chose silence, unnerving them at the worst moment and making these old guys' faces go red and beaming at him with endless hope. Bro, where's the rest? Zhua Fan spoke with pride. By the way, we've yet to establish terms. Let's begin, shall we? They all flinched and almost fell. Their faces twitched and faces fell. Oh right, nothing's free in the world. He's certainly not above asking to be paid for his rescue plan. Zhua Fan sure knew how to sell himself, showcasing his talent before talking terms. Mentioning them any sooner and the other party would never believe in his skills. Zhua Fan led the talks, making it so he was their only hope of survival. They were stuck with him. And as desperate men clinging for any lifeline, they would take his terms without question. Sir Zhua, we will agree with any terms you might have, just help us against the Central Area's invasions. Ling Yuntian turned serious as he spoke in earnest. That was all Zhua Fan needed to hear, his face beaming. First off, this 5 fronts war shall be under my command with none permitted to interfere. Of course, since only you can handle Bailey Jingwei, we will follow your lead. Everyone gave hasty nods. Second, I want you to vow on your path to look after Qingqing's safety. No matter what happens, you are to protect her and look after her. Well, they looked baffled, with Zhua Fan continuing, anything can happen on the battlefield. At my sudden demise, you can't even look after my family? I can't leave this world knowing my wife isn't taken care of. Vow and I'll be at ease. Oh, I see, sure. They all saw reason, making their vows based on their own path in cultivation. Once a cultivator made such a vow, it was for life. He had to fulfill it or his entire beliefs would crumble along with feeling the wrath of heaven. None would take such a promise lightly, though it was just over some widow. What was the worst that could happen? Only Exalted Bai Mei and Exalted He Ran felt their faces heat up. Zhua Fan was clearly hinting at them saving Yi Lin while leaving Chu Qingqing to die mere days before, at the stage. Such was their bad luck, as Zhua Fan was not around the past years to see how thoughtful they were of Chu Qingqing all this time. Doing this had made it seem that this 5-year-long favor was for nothing. Opportunity is much more praised than prevention. Exalted He Ran sighed. Zhua Fan was at ease now that this condition was accepted. He no longer needed to worry about Qingqing's safety when he'd be out at sea. Zhua Fan's eyes flashed and said, next isn't much of a condition. It's not exactly right for a convict to command the elders' forces of every land. Oh right, we are fully committed to supporting Grand Marshal Zhua of the 4 lands in defending our homes from invaders. All lands, sects and clans are at your disposal. Ling Yuntian bowed. The rest followed suit. May Sir be appointed as Grand Marshal of the 4 lands to fight back the enemy. In that case, what are you waiting for? Get this Grand Marshal free and out there fighting Bailey Jingwei. Do you expect me to fight him behind bars? Zhua Fan cocked an eyebrow and smirked. Chower giggled at the side. The merchant guards bowed with smiles of respect. Sir Zhua is wise beyond his years. He had no worry of being exposed since he already had everything in control. He's like a god. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.